Fantastic.
The recording has begun, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Let's go ahead and bring this session of the Oregon Aviation Board into session as we act on the Aviation Modal Committee review for the Connect Oregon. It's kind of an exciting time to see Connect Oregon come back, so it'd give a chance to continue to funnel money out into the aviation system out there, which is desperately needed. So with that, I'd also like to welcome, we have a new board member today. Catherine, are you out there?
I am here.
Hot day. Well, welcome aboard, Catherine Stevens, as she brings in some really fantastic airport management skills. Greatly appreciate you coming on the board. It's just super.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be a part of it. So thanks for having me.
All right, well, fantastic. Okay, well, before I hand it over to Heather, just a quick administrative note. If you could do us a favor, and if you have anything that goes beep or chimes or whatever, if you could go ahead and mute that, that would be great. And now let me go ahead and hand it over to Heather, to Heather, as her staff has done a great job teeing up a lot of information to get to the board.
Heather, before you do that, I'd like to go ahead and do the roll call just so it's on the record.
Oh, yep, thanks, appreciate it. Go ahead.
All right, so Chair Meeker,
Here.
Vice Chair Vince Granado,
I am here.
Catherine Stevens,
I'm here.
Tom Kruger,
Here.
Mike Oliver,
Here.
and Hilda Pareo. And she notified the chair that she will be on a little later due to a schedule conflict. Back to you, Madam Chair.
And I'm going to hand it over to Heather to explain the program and some of the rules for today.
Great, thank you. I'm so glad you guys can all be here and that we have everybody on the line ready to give their presentations for you. I want to say thank you for being the Modal Committee and all of your reviews. The people at ODOT, all their staff, and the Transportation Commission greatly appreciate your hard work. What we have done is taken all of your reviews and compiled the individual rankings and created a spreadsheet that averaged those individual scores. You should have received an email from Kathy this morning that will have all of those. You'll notice that there are some ties, and we're going to be asking you at the final deliberation piece to break those ties and then move around the projects as you see fit based upon your reviews, this meeting of the presentations and your deliberations. Then this final list will go to ODOT, where there will be two other final modal committees, rail and marine, doing the same thing. And ODOT's 5 regions and freight will be providing a similar list to ODOT to comprise a final puzzle, if you will, that will go to the final review committee, which they call the FRC. Those packages will be sent into the final review committee, and they will be deliberating in May, and those will go to the Transportation Commission. So this is just a piece of the final package, but it's a very important piece from the lens of aviation, not the lens of any region specific, but they are asking you as the modal committee to look at it and look at this list and see what makes the most sense statewide. While we've had included project costs in that final list to you all this morning, please note that for this Connect Oregon, that might not make as much sense as it has in the past, because the costs of these projects in total could be covered by the, in total Connect Oregon pot. But with rail and marine projects in there, those projects are exponentially higher than aviation's projects. So that's just a portion of some of the things that you'll be taking a look at. Staff's here to assist you through all of your deliberations at the end. And I will remind you all later when we get through the applications that if you have a conflict prior to deliberations, that I'd like you to state it. If it's a true or actual conflict, or even a perceived one, to please state that prior to the deliberations section. And I think that's all I have. And before we get started with any of the presentations that are on the agenda, we'll be following the agenda in order. Does the board have any questions for me?
Anything out there for the board? And just real quick for the board, it's going to be quick presentations. And when the presentation's over, it's 7 minutes and then we're going to the next one. No time for deliberation. Just write your questions down and we will deliberate at the end.
That would be super. Okay. And if if the presentations take less time, we will move on. So we'll try to grab the time where we have it. So it gives you back time at the end. All right. Kathy, do you want to just go through the agenda and take it away for me, or do you want me to the introductions? Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, there I go. If you want to call the project out, and then I can make sure I have their presentation queued up. But each of you who are presenting, you have the option to run your screen. I've had one presenter ask me to go ahead and run the screen. If there's a glitch, I will pop up ours so you can keep going. So I'm going to back you up, but it's on each of you presenters to go ahead and share your screen if you so choose.
And be ready if you're on deck, because we might run under time. So all that being said, the first presentation is 1A0437 Milano State Airport Waterline Improvements. Take it away.
Okay, all right, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Can you all hear me? Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. And can you all see the waterline improvement project screen?
You can.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm gonna tell you, for those who don't know me, I'm Tony Beach. I'm the State Airports Manager with the Department of Aviation. And I'm gonna tell you about a few projects today, starting with our waterline improvement project at Milano. Okay. Little background, the Milano Airport, the site has been in aviation use since 1949, and the airport was privately owned until it was acquired for public use in 1988. The airport is home to 62 based aircraft in 47 hangars and 16 tie-down spaces, meaning this airport is at capacity. The master plan from 2014 forecasts demand for 34 additional based aircraft, requiring 36 new hangars over the next 12 years. And I believe that with low supply and very high hangar demand in Oregon in general, and in the Southeast Portland metropolitan area, I believe that we would see that growth if we could build hangars. But we cannot build hangars at the airport until access to fire suppression is improved. At the airport, we have a fixed base operator who provides fuel sales, commercial hangar storage, and flight training. We also have an aircraft maintenance facility and a skydiving operation. The airport is also home to the Milano chapter of the Oregon Pilots Association. And the master plan, again, projects the need for future aviation businesses with the forecasted growth. Here's a picture of existing conditions showing our current hangars, just the 3 rows of T hangars and 1 quad hangar unit. Again, that provides 47 hangar spaces, and then we have 16 tie downs, totaling 63 aircraft parking spaces for our 62 based aircraft. This is a picture of our preferred alternative from the master plan, which identifies 7 new multi-unit T hangars, 10 new box hangars, 2 new commercial hangars, and 7 reserve hangars, just showing the amount of growth this airport would need to sustain the forecasted demand at this airport. And again, no new development can occur without the waterline improvements, and we do have a wait list and for hangar space for people who are interested in developing at the airport. This project scope would replace approximately 4,000 linear feet of undersized waterline with 8-inch ductile iron water main, and it would construct 8 new fire hydrants and reconnect 16 private services at the airport. It would have a useful life well in excess of 20 years. We anticipate over 100 years for these improvements. The cost estimate for this project is $887,155. Our grant request is $722,634. Our local match is $340,000, which is a 32% match. And for a total estimate of $1,062,698 with a $42,000 contingency. We expect this project to take 7 months once awarded grant funds. We've already completed planning and scoping and the project design for this project. It is ready for bid once funds are awarded. And we anticipate that starting by December of this year, and to award construction by February 23, and construction would occur May through September of 23. And then if any questions, but it sounds like we're not going to take questions. I'd be happy to answer questions after all the presentations are shared.
All right, thanks, Tony.
There are 30 seconds if there's a quick question.
I have a quick question. Can you tell us what the economic driver is for this airport? Is this related to business or corporate activity, or is this flying for tourism or for fun?
Aside from some of the tourism business like skydiving, and then the maintenance facility that we have on the airport, most of the hangar and local users is personal private aircraft storage. And I believe that with lack of supply again in the Southeast Portland metro area, I believe that would be make up a majority of the growth we would see at the airport as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. That concludes presentation number 1.
All right, now,
Hey.
Tony, you're on for the second one, aren't you not?
Yes, I am. So I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, and do you see a screen for the Pacific City State Airport?
We do.
Okay. So this project is at, again, the Pacific City State Airport. It's to provide an access road and rehabilitate the apron at the airport. This airport was opened in July of 1951. It is the only paved runway within 16 miles or a 30-minute driving distance from Pacific City. It has approximately 5 based aircraft and serves local residents, businesses, and emergency services. But there is no direct public access to the public state-owned airfield property. Back in 2020, the Department of Aviation purchased 2 unimproved parcels, but there remains to be no direct public access. This airport routinely provides medevac services and other emergency aircraft access to the local community, and the pedestrians also have to cross over private property because, again, there's no public right of way that provides direct access to the airfield. So this, in this case, pedestrians have to either go through private property or, in some cases, cross the runway, which is extremely unsafe and we completely discourage. So this project would construct a paved access road connecting the public use airport to the public right of way, and it would construct a gravel parking lot. It would provide an access control gate and fencing, and it would rehabilitate the aircraft parking apron, and it would remark aircraft tie-down spaces. The cost estimate for this project is $300,000. Our grant request is $204,000. The applicant match, our match is $96,000, which is a 32% match. And again, our total estimate $300,000 with a $21,000 contingency. We expect this project would take 16 months, and once awarded funds, we would begin planning and scoping and environmental coordination permitting. We expect to construct July through September of 23, and the project would close out October through December of 23. Any questions on this project?
Tony, I do have one, and Heather, you may know it because it's dealing with staff scoring. Do you know what knocked this down into tier 3? I'm assuming, was it just the life of the project, or just the scope that it's not servicing a huge population? Do you know?
So in the statutory findings, my guess, because I didn't look at it in that close of detail, because all of the scores were lower, was job creation complete, because Connect Oregon is about connection, right? Modal connections. And I don't think that it was clear that this was a connection project. So that is what I interpret why it ended up being a tier 3.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I didn't specify, but we do expect the life expectancy to exceed 20 years.
Oh, okay, thanks. Appreciate it, Tony.
Wonderful. So we're going to make up a little bit of time and hopefully move on here to the next project, which is 2A0443 Eugene Airport widening taxiways. Eugene Airport, you're up.
Hi.
Hi, Patricia.
Hi. Start my screen here. Do you see my screen?
We can.
Okay. All right. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Patricia Haley, and I'm with the Eugene Airport, the Assistant Airport Director. Hold on, I've got to change my view here. Construction of the LEED certified Eugene Airport air cargo facility was completed in 2008 and was funded with a Connect Oregon grant, FAA Airport Improvement Program grant funds, and airport funds. The facility is currently utilized by contracted air cargo feeder aircraft for FedEx and UPS. Prior to the pandemic, Alaska Air Cargo also operated at the facility. Lawrence Air Service is also based at the facility, providing ground handling services for charter operations, including for the football teams and affiliated passengers for the University of Oregon and Oregon State University. The facility is located on the south end, right here. These are the taxiways of the Eugene Airfield. Taxiway Lima and Juliet provide direct access from the Alpha Taxiway to the Eugene cargo ramp. While both taxiways Lima and Juliet were constructed to the appropriate design standards at the time, the current geometry limits the size of aircraft that can access the air cargo ramp. And this leads to 3 scenarios. 1, the pilot must use judgment steering to access the air cargo ramp, which violates the taxiway edge safety margins. If an aircraft has a turning radius that allows, a tug may tow the aircraft in and out of the ramp area. Boeing 767s must currently be handled in this fashion. The air cargo ramp is unusable for some aircraft types, such as 777s. The proposed air cargo taxiway expansion project would widen the existing taxiways. Widening the taxiways will allow EUG to maximize the utilization of the air cargo facility by allowing larger air cargo, military, and disaster relief aircraft to move safely onto the air cargo ramp. The project's estimated cost is $2 million. If received, this grant would reimburse the airport $1.4 million, with the remaining match covered by airport revenue. This is an ultimate airfield view from the Eugene Airport Development Plan, which the FAA terminology is the Airport Master Plan. The areas in pink, right here, show future expansion areas of the air cargo facility. When that expansion will take place will be driven by market demand and likely interest from a large air cargo company. This project is of critical importance as we plan for the future of air cargo operations at Eugene. A couple of months ago, the Boise City Council approved a plan for Amazon to build a 31,000 square foot air cargo center at the Boise airport. The airport is investing about 22 million in capital improvements, including a new access road, taxiway, and ramp. In October, Amazon began operations at the Spokane International Airport, leasing a new facility used to transfer parcels from the airport to and from the Amazon Fulfillment Center adjacent to the airport. In the Northwest region, EUG is the next largest airport without a large air cargo operation. This is a Boeing 777 passenger charter aircraft. You'll recall from a couple of slides ago, a Boeing 767 aircraft must be tugged onto the air cargo ramp. For the 777, this is not an option. The Ducks football charter flight that came in January of 2019 operated from the B gate apron at the terminal building. Gates B1, B2, B3, and A1 were unable to be used for scheduled commercial flights during this time due to the size of the 777 on the apron. Widening the taxiways will allow for a 777 to operate at air cargo. The air cargo facility is also used for wildfire firefighting, aerial operations, disaster response and recovery efforts, and military operations. The pictures here show two Illinois aircraft C-130s delivering PPE supplies to our region early in the pandemic. The air cargo facility is also utilized by the U.S. Secret Service and Diplomatic Service when visitors with these designated protective services fly into and out of EUG. The EUG Air Cargo Taxiway Expansion project will improve both air cargo and passenger charter transportation, providing new economic development opportunities and creating new jobs. This project will make EUG competitive in attracting large air cargo carriers. Currently, PDX is the only Oregon airport with dedicated cargo jet activities. This project will support large cargo aircraft at EUG, capable of accommodating market demand, improving the efficiency of our transportation system, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and reduce highway congestion by removing the need to transport cargo from PDX over Oregon's highways. This project will also support passenger charter operations on larger aircraft not currently able to utilize the facility. In all, approximately 140 jobs will be retained and potentially hundreds of new jobs created should a large air cargo company decide to operate at EUG.
I'm sorry to interrupt at this point, but we have reached our 5-minute limit.
Okay. Thank you.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Eugene. We will move on to our next applicant, and that is 2A0445 Corvallis Airport Runway Rehabilitation and Lighting Project. Corvallis, you are up if you would like to put your presentation up.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
We can, Lisa, we got you loud and clear.
Excellent. Give me a moment. Can you see my presentation?
We can.
Okay, super. I am Lisa Schertz with the City of Corvallis and the Corvallis Municipal Airport. And the project I'm presenting today is for our main runway 1735 rehabilitation and lighting improvements. This is a very sort of basic airport infrastructure project. We've got faded markings on our runway and block cracking. The pavement condition on the center keel was 53 in our last evaluation. So this project would address those things. We also have a catastrophic failure in our edge lighting system and have not had edge lighting for well over a year. And we're able to convince our FAA contacts to add this into the scope of our runway rehabilitation so we could address it. So this project will also replace a 30-year-old direct bury failed edge lighting system. This just shows sort of graphically what we're talking about: rehabilitation of the entire runway length, seal coating the connecting taxiways, and replacing the median intensity runway lighting with high intensity runway lighting, new conduit, base cans, electrical, the works. Our old system lasted 30 years, and we expect to get at least that much out of the new system because it will not be direct bury.
Lisa, your slides are not forwarding.
Oh, they're not. Oh dear. Let me. I don't know why that is. Maybe it has to do with.
It might be on the wrong screen for the share. Sorry to
That could
interrupt.
be.
I need to stop the timer.
Yeah, you bet. No, that's all right. I think we'll just do this. You can see this screen now, right? Where
Project elements.
right. And my slides off to the side that are
Right.
coming up. Yeah. Okay. So this is the slide that was meant to show you, well, this is the kind of the condition, the look at it. And I'm going to move this. Thank you for being patient. Pavement markings that are faded, block cracking, ancient direct bury lighting system that's failed. This is just a graphical sort of sketch of those things. And this project would leverage over $3 million in federal funding, which we already have in hand. And this would provide a match to that. So our request is $375,308 to leverage that FAA grant. I've already spoken about these things, so I won't say that again. Economically, the Corvallis Airport is a general aviation airport. It's a very busy airport. We have daily air freight operation, as the previous applicant said, connecting to ground transportation for both UPS and FedEx every day. We support 2 flight training schools that collectively employ 10 people. We also support corporate and charter jet activity from local businesses in the area and Oregon State University. We have an FBO that operates from CBO that employs 20 people in aviation services and generates about $1 million in revenue a year. And finally, the State Resilience Office has been contacted us about using CBO as a strategically important staging site in a Cascadia subduction zone event. And so those conversations are ongoing, and that's just added kind of a new element in the strategic importance of the Corvallis Municipal Airport. And that's really all I had today. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Or excuse me, Lisa.
You bet.
Time for a couple of questions if there are any.
And I'm going to try to unshare here. Sorry for being clunky.
Chair
No.
Meeker, if I may, I have a question.
Certainly.
Okay. The Connect Oregon, the core grant that you were recently given by the Aviation Department, is it for the same project?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 150,000 of your matching share for the total project cost. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, and so this would be for the remainder of your match.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to stop sharing.
I do need to interject something. If that is indeed accurate, Connect Oregon projects, our core grants cannot fund Connect Oregon projects. So if this project does move forward, we will have to pull our core grant back. That's in statute.
Okay.
Hey, Heather and Lisa, why don't you kind of huddle maybe during lunch hour and just see how you want to pursue this. I would assume you'd want to pursue Connect just because there's more money, but
Right.
would you two just, take a few seconds to make sure that we're not overlooking something, and we'll just wait to hear from you towards the end.
Super. Thank you.
Certainly. And I did remind the airports, and just a reminder to the board, there are a couple applications that are similar to this throughout the process. K Falls being another one. They are pursuing Connect Oregon first. If they don't, they will be receiving core grant funding at a substantial lesser amount, right? So just so that you're aware. All right. Thank you very much, Corvallis. Next on
You're
deck
welcome.
and up is Florence. That's application 2A0474, Florence Municipal Airport Fueling Island Reconstruction. You are up. Please share your screen.
Are you there, Kevin?
The Mike Miller. Looking,
Is Mike Miller on?
looking.
Is a representative for Mike Miller or the Florence Airport on?
I don't have an email, so we might want to circle back later if we have time at the end.
Okay, we can definitely do that. This is why people should be ready to go. All right, and I will circle back and I'll touch base and send out an email as well. Next up is 2A0465 Creswell Airport Runway 1634 reconstruction and lighting replacement. Is Creswell on?
Shelley is, where is Shelley? I'm not seeing Shelley Humble in the participants, and I don't have an email saying help.
I will contact Shelley as well, but it does have a name of Amberg. But I'll reach out to Shelley.
Okay. Is there somebody, Amber Judd? Is that the presenter?
Oh, yeah, because that looks a little off, maybe too. I'll reach out to.
Amber
reach
and
out-
Judd are two different people.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
what?
Yes,
Okay.
I see
my
that.
bad.
Okay, moving on, I'll reach out to her while the next presentation is up. I see that Jerry is up. The next project is 3A0453 Medford Airport East Side Heavy Duty Aircraft Apron Expansion. Medford,
Yes, thank you, Heather. Can you guys see my screen, East Side Heavy Duty Apron?
You
you
can.
bet.
Excellent. And extra points for being early, right? So the purpose of this project is ultimately to reduce risks and improve our ability to recover from a catastrophe. The ability to fight fires is ever so important down here in Southern Oregon. And to be as quickly and effectively as possible is really contingent upon the infrastructure that this airport can offer and can support them. So just as a background, in 2020, we did have 4 people in our area die from local fires, and 600 homes destroyed and over 1,000 commercial buildings were either damaged or destroyed. So it's very significant down here and very important to us. So those are some of the current issues. Today, we can only accommodate 1 VLAT, which is a very large air tanker, at any given time. So that's a problem for us because there are times when we have 4 VLATs on the ground at the same time. Not to mention, in conjunction with that, we could have military C5 operations as well as Antonov or other cargo operations. The Antonov comes in here quite often, or at least it used to. We'll see. It's a Ukrainian aircraft. So we want to be able to ramp up and have the capacity necessary to handle not only our firefighting operations, but also our commercial cargo and our military when they come in. So I think it's important to note that the Rogue Valley International Medford Airport is identified in the Oregon Resilience Plan as a Cat 1 Tier 1 airport. And this means that the airport can be and probably will be a vital hub to deliver much needed supplies and other responses to Southern Oregon, which extends all the way to the coast. So the East Apron expansion will increase the efficiency and effectiveness of our response. If we do experience a catastrophic events, such as the Cascadia earthquake, we will be seeing aircraft from throughout the nation and possibly even internationally, which means they'll be very large aircraft, and which also means we will have to have the room to park them. So we need capacity at our airport. Just a couple of pictures of what we plan on doing. This project, this Connect Oregon project, is only phase 1 and 2, but I'm going to show you phase 3, which is the ultimate build out. So we are applying for phase 1 and 2, and basically it turns 1 ramp space into 3 very large aircraft ramp spaces and rehabilitates this taxiway right here, which is in very poor condition, and we need to obviously have good, safe access to that ramp area. We'll also be doing this phase under the project, which gives the aircraft circulation so they can power in and power out, because what we don't want to do is create lags in time and them having to push back each operation. We already have 3 aircraft sometimes waiting for that spot, and that's where they get their fire retardant. So it's got to be quick in, quick out. Phase 3 is the ultimate build out. It just adds a little bit more circulation to make it a little bit more fluid in that area, and we'll be doing that in a couple of years. Those are some of the aircraft that use the airfield, including the Antonov up top and C5s down below. The total project cost, those are a lot of numbers there. Just go to the bottom. The total project cost is a little over $12 million. The airport is going to contribute a little over $9 million with local monies and FAA monies. So the actual applicant match on this is 79.25%. So it's a really good match. We just need to get over the hump with a little Connect Oregon money. Benefits the whole state, more efficient travel and commerce throughout the region, safe access for all residents and businesses, faster response to wildfires, create or retain over almost 5,000 jobs in the area, and increases system capacity, relieves bottlenecks, and improves the geometrics of the area. And that's where I'll conclude.
Thanks, Jerry. Anybody have a quick question? Okay, Heather.
Okay. So Jerry, did you want to just go right into your second application, that is 3A05454, excuse me, and then once this presentation is over, we will circle back to Florence. Mike Miller is on.
Sure. Thank you, Heather. Do you guys see my screen about the transportation, technical, and training education?
We can.
Great. So the vision for this is basically to construct the infrastructure needed to support a very collective training center. We have talked to our higher ed institutions in the area, as well as our charter schools, where we've already been infiltrating some of the high schools here and getting students to be pilots before they even graduate high school. We've talked to Mercy Flights, which is based here in our airport. They are looking at a regional training center for emergency responders. So I kind of liken this project to an aircraft that's on the ground. If it's on the ground, it's not making any money. The same with a facility. If it's empty, it's not making any money. So we are trying to get a lot of entities and a lot of cohesion involved in this facility, but we need the infrastructure to even build the facility, and that's what this project is about. So the purpose is to provide space for higher education institutions and corporate business to conduct transportation, emergency, and other education and training programs. We have an aging workforce throughout the aviation industry and other transportation industries. And I know you guys know all about that because we feel it today in the prices that we're paying for airline tickets because of the pilot shortage. The impact, 83% of regional carriers find it challenging to recruit talent compared to 22%. So we need to get pilots into the pipe system. And this is what this whole project does. The global pilot shortage will emerge in certain regions no later than 2023, and most probably before, and I think it's before because we're feeling it now. The estimated global gap of 34,000 pilots by 2025 and as high as 50,000 pilots in extreme circumstances. So we need to start filling these gaps. And I'm talking pilots because that's a lot of the data out there. Every industry follows the same pattern. If you're a mechanic, if you're a flight attendant, if you're working the counters, we're struggling finding people, and we need to start pumping people through the education systems and let them know that there's aviation jobs out there. Wyman Paul, very respected pollster with the average pilot population, a heavy use of early retirements. The shortage reemerges quickly and is projected to reach over 12,000 pilots by 2023. So that's just North America. Before I was talking globally, that's just North America, over 12,000 pilots by 2023. I'm not going to go through all these. These are just airline responses. I wanted to put them on there for you guys to read later, but I will tell you, there's a couple interesting things in there where airlines are like, for instance, Avelo just bolstered their captain's pay by 50% in order to entice people to start coming to their airline. Not only that, they're given a $20,000 signing bonus. So they're good careers is basically the focus of what I'm trying to say there. What are the solutions? Well, pilot training, hands-on training, and become a professional fixed wing or helicopter pilot. Aviation engineering. I know there's some aviation engineers on here, and they can tell you how hard it is to try to find qualified people. Emergency management, as I said, Mercy Flights is looking to make it a regional hub of training. Since they're flying all their people to the East Coast, they want to make this a West Coast emergency training area. Airport management courses, which includes airline and air commerce type of coursework. CDL training. As we got into this, we found out that there's deficiencies in other industries that could be using this training facility, such as truck drivers. We all know the shortages there. And then drone. We have a guy locally here that is looking to expand his drone training program, and really likes the concept of this facility. Basically, like I said, it's the infrastructure to bring everything over to this facility. Phase 1 is going to be bringing, and this also is phase 1 and phase 2, our Connect Oregon grant. I'm sorry, we are just applying for phase 1 this time. Phase 2 and phase 3 are down the road. So phase 1, directly associated with Connect Oregon, is to bring the taxiway to the north there and create a ramp area for this facility. The next phase, ultimate build out, will be creating the parking lots and the access road, which is already there, just needs to be improved. And phase 3 will be the building itself. There are some conceptual designs of what the facility is intended to look like. And again, just draw your eyes to the bottom of the screen there. Phases 1 and 2, we're looking at $5 million. The airport's going to build phase 2. So we're looking at $5 million total cost. Airport is contributing a 65% match, including some FAA funds. So the applicant match will be 65% of that $5 million. Lots of community support. We have a huge stakeholder meeting, probably about 25 people going to attend that here in the upcoming couple of weeks. And those are just some of the interested parties that have submitted a letter of intent to do business at this facility. And I will conclude my presentation there.
Any questions from any board member out there? And Heather, I have a question.
Sure.
Kind of similar to Pacific City. Any idea why this got popped down to tier 2?
I do. It's sort of for similar reasons. While not necessarily all jobs and economy focused, but was connections and the mission of Connect Oregon.
More classroom space, not necessary infrastructure space or transportation infrastructure space.
Yes, absolutely. So, but we'll get into the tiering discussion a little bit later. There is more room for you guys to make some adjustments in your scoring, and I'll get to that later. But thank you very much, Jerry. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Let me stop sharing.
Next up, we'll circle back to Florence. Application 2A0474, Florence Municipal Airport Fueling Island Reconstruction. Mike Miller, thank you for joining us today, and feel free to share your screen.
All right, thank you. Is it sharing?
It's showing.
Cool. All right. So thank you. And I just caught the last part of the couple of those presentations. Very, very exciting to see what else is going on in the state. Our project is a relocation of our fueling island. And so in this image, you'll see our fueling island in this location. You also see when we did our ramp expansion, the actual taxi lane line comes right through here. And so we had to modify it because we were too close to the taxi lane. So we did alter the ramp a little bit to accommodate where the existing fueling island is. The on the south and west sides, so this would be the west side, this would be the south side. As planes are parked and getting fuel, they can partially block this area. And then also hangar 3C, which actually houses a twin turboprop plane. As you can see, if they were trying to get out at the same time someone was fueling, there could be, a significant delay or a wait for them to get out to the apron. So here's a view of the existing fueling island. Took a couple of shots actually yesterday of it. Here's the location of hangar 3C. And down below, this would be approximately where the location of the new fueling island would be. So you kind of get a visual of where that is located in relationship to the hangars. Also in this area is the existing storm drainage system that was installed when we did the apron expansion. So here's another view of that same aerial. Here's the existing fueling system. Here's the proposed island location. Here's that drainage, existing drainage structures that were installed back in 2011 when we did the apron expansion. Also during our apron expansion, we did already install the fuel lines to this location. So our project will improve safety by providing the adequate clearances, improve efficiency for fueling operations, eliminates the aircraft access conflict with hangar 3C, and provides that proper alignment of the taxi lane. So some additional benefits is the relocation reconstruction will aid the existing and future pilots in the self-serving of their self-fueling of their aircraft. We'll also have better clearances for Coast Guard and National Guard helicopters that come in from time to time to the airport. It will also help with our annual Wings and Wheels show. We do have that on an annual basis. It has been postponed for a couple of years now because of COVID-19, but we're looking forward to having that come back to the airport. And then we do have scenic helicopter and biplane rides at the airport operations, as well as access to the local golf course from charter flights coming in. And then energy efficiency, of course, having new fueling pumps that should increase the efficiency and energy savings at the airport. And then we also support forestry and wood products industry. We do have Apex helicopter based at the airport. They provide tree service or harvest service to tree farms during the holiday season and throughout the year, plus providing fire suppression services for wildland fire suppression. So our total project cost is $145,000. We're requesting $100,000 from Connect Oregon. City match will be $45,000. That's cash on hand. That's about 31% match. As far as schedule, we'd be looking at beginning the process of getting permits and going through the permitting process June of this summer through December of 22. Design would begin in September of 22 and can be completed in the spring of 23. Bidding project soon after March of 23 through May of 23, and then construction. Pretty short window. Obviously, with the amount of rain that we receive here at the coast, we want this to be completed in that August-September timeframe. And with that, if there's any questions or comments, be happy to answer those. And these photos are from previous Wings and Wheels events at the airport.
I'm just curious, how, any reason you didn't pursue this? It's you know, just $100,000. Didn't pursue this through core grants?
So we already had a core grant for our AWAS project. So that was part of it. And then, of course, when we did our AWAS project, which we just completed this year, not this year, but in December, it was completed. Actually, FAA came in and we did not utilize the core grant because it became 100% project eligible, funded through the FAA.
Okay, all right.
Heather, Shelley's on.
Oh, super, great. Thank you so much, Mike.
All right.
All right. Now that Shelley is on, thank you so much for joining us. We're running a little bit early. Let's circle back to a 0465 Creswell Airport runway 1634 reconstruction and lighting replacement project. And let's see, Mike, can you stop sharing your screen? And Creswell, you may start sharing your screen, and as soon as you are ready, we can get started. Good to see you, Shelley.
Thanks, Heather. Can you help me with sharing?
We can. Would you like, Kathy, do you have the presentation?
Yes, I do.
Thanks, Kathy. And I apologize. I am also in the Connect Oregon Regional Committee review at this time. And I was chair of the Lane Act. So I was looking at both.
Well, we appreciate it. Yes. And so Kathy has gone ahead and shared the screen and will be helping out with controls for this. So take it away.
Thank you. This Connect Oregon grant is to ask for $250,000. Some statistics about our runway currently. It was constructed in 1987. It is 34 years old. It is the one and only runway that we have. It is past its design life. It has significant cracking and deterioration beneath the slurry seals. The Connect Oregon 2021 grant will strengthen the pavement to meet the minimum 12,500 pound load requirement by the FAA. It will restore the runway condition to structurally sound pavement, which is vitally important, and it will bring the pavement up to current FAA standards for operational and safety improvements. Next slide, please. The economic impacts of Hobby Field on the local and regional economy per the Oregon Aviation Department Aviation Plan 6.0. The airports in Oregon directly or indirectly are responsible for 240,000 jobs, 10 billion in wages, and 28.5 billion in business sales. General aviation visitors spending in Creswell was given 25.7 jobs, $1,093,667 in wages, and $2,616,962 in business sales. Creswell Hobby Field's economic contribution to the state's economy was given as 37 jobs, $1,665,954 in wages, $6,045,465 in business sales. Most of the impacts were attributed to the economic region comprised of the Willamette Valley and southern Lane County. Next slide, please. Hobby Field acts as a multimodal reliever for Eugene Airport. FedEx and UPS rely on Hobby Field during inclement weather at Eugene. Life Flight and Mercy Flights utilize Hobby Field to provide life-saving patient transport. Hobby Field Airport reduces vehicular and truck traffic congestion on roadways throughout the region, meaning I-5 and Highway 99. Business on Hobby Field bring customers from all over Oregon, parts of Washington, Idaho, California, and Alaska. Next slide, please. 10 businesses are located on the field who currently have viable businesses and employ several general and specialized aviation personnel. These businesses will benefit from this project in that they can continue operations for the next 20 years confidently, looking towards expansion. There are 4 aviation maintenance shops, 2 flight schools, a skydiving center, an aerobatic company, and 2 Part 135 businesses. One does fire watch and one is an air taxi. Next slide. Total cost estimate. And again, our project is out for RFP. We opened bids on the 22nd. We have a 94% match for this project. The shortfall comes, it says city funds of 100,000. That has been adjusted as we go through this process. The FAA does not allow payment of nav aids via discretionary funding, which is why we have increased our ask to 250,000. Next slide, please. This is design, planning, infrastructure completed or underway at the airport. We have completed our Creswell Regional Economic Development Plan, the Creswell Airport Market Feasibility Study and Business Plan, the Hobby Field Airport Marketing Plan, Phase 1, 2, and 3 of water line dead end improvement systems with fire hydrants, partial perimeter fencing improvements, Connect Oregon AWAS improvements, non-precision GPS approach, airport visioning strategic plan, and we're in the process of working on our on-site wastewater treatment system. Next slide, please. Some information about Hobby Field. It was built in 1962 and dedicated in 1963. It's 98.7 acres. It's a reliever for Eugene Airport. It's included on the NIPIAS. It's categorized as a community general aviation airport in the 2000 Oregon Aviation Plan. And it's an FAA Airport Design Group 1.
Shelley,
Yes,
our time has expired for the 5 minutes.
thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, board members, that brings us up into our first break. We've gotten a little time back. So how would you like to propose this break? I would say that we break until the agenda time as listed to 11:24 to at least get us started back there. Is that okay with you, Sharon?
That gets us, that way we're on schedule with, I know we have a lot of people that's basing their schedule on us keeping our schedule.
It has run quicker in this Zoom world since we're getting better at Zoom presentations.
Okay, so we want us back at 11:24.
That's when the presentation will start. So a couple minutes beforehand would be great, and prepped and ready to go. That would be super.
All right, so we will bring everybody back in 20 minutes.
Sounds fantastic. See you all, Kathy. Our next presentation is 3A0449 eVTOL Cargo and Pacific Northwest Seafood Transfer Facility at Southwest Regional. Oh, Teresa, you are here. Great,
I am here.
wonderful.
Yes.
Feel free to share your screen.
Okay. Start video.
Want to make sure that's working first.
Perfect. We can see it now.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. My name is Teresa Cook. I'm the Executive Director of the Coos County Airport District, and appreciate your time. Let me present the Coos County Airport District's eVTOL Cargo and Pacific Northwest Seafood Transfer Connect Organ project. Our total project cost is $9,826,000 with a Connect Organ request of $3 million. Robert, it's not moving. Sorry. And technical difficulties. Okay. Southwest Oregon Regional Airport is the only commercial air service airport on the Oregon coast. Airport currently has FedEx and UPS operating on the airfield. As you can see from this slide, the FedEx has exceeded their operational footprint. They were in this cargo building on the left, and they've expanded to where they're just utilizing parking spaces all over the airport because they've grown so much. So the cargo operations have dramatically increased relative to our region over the past decade or more. And concurrently, over the past 10 years, the airport continues to be approached by our regional seafood harvesters and processors for means to the ability to expedite their seafood by air cargo out of the airport. This facility was built in the 1950s. It's asbestos clad with a tree growing out of the chimney. It'll be demolished to make way for the project demolished next month. And FedEx is operating temporarily out of a small hangar. This is the project area. As you can see, there's a few numbers there. Buildings 1, 2, and 3 have been demolished. The cargo facility is coming down next month. The other unnumbered buildings are coming down in the next couple of months. The design of the project is being performed right now and be completed before the end of the month for bidding. This is what we hope the project will look like when it's completed. We're expanding the ramp so that we can get cargo aircraft in and out of that area. And then the seafood facility, or the cargo facility with seafood ability to transfer seafood in and out, along with the increased cargo demand. We have a electric VTOL charging station that is going to be on the ramp also. I'll talk about that in a minute. We have support from the seafood industry. They said that we continue to seek cost-effective, efficient ways to get our products to our distributors and to increase our market reach, which has been an ongoing challenge for our industry, especially in this region. This proposed facility, in conjunction with the access to industrial-sized freezer and refrigerator space, would help us become more competitive in the seafood market, creating a direct economic benefit to the southern region, which includes Coos, Curry, and Douglas counties. Our seafood output here in our area is approximately about 120 million per year. It includes Florence, Winchester, Charleston, Bandon, and probably some other areas I'm not familiar with. Sorry, a seafood expert. We've teamed up with Beta Technologies. They approached us, and they're willing, and they're going to put in a electric charging station. They're investing $400,000 for their ELEA 250 to operate. They have a charging network they're installing across the country. The purple ones are in process. We are the gray one on the West Coast there. You can see in the lower part of Oregon. UPS has entered into a deal to purchase 150 eVTOL aircraft. Their model for this aircraft use fits our community and our region for short distance and several different communities that need to that would be able to utilize this type of delivery. FedEx has recently purchased ATR 72-600s, which allowed for refrigerated containers to be shipped out of our airport. Currently, they're doing multiple smaller aircraft out of here, and they would bring in the larger aircraft to accommodate that. And then This is our conceptual design of a new cargo facility that would accommodate FedEx, UPS, and if it has to be a third provider also, we would have the ability to do that for our anticipated increased seafood. So let's see, sorry. This is our budget. Just want to say that it's estimated 9 million. There's 160 square foot of development. Apron that the FAA is participating in. The FAA does not participate in cargo facilities for a regional airports such as ours that are under 100 million pounds per year. So this is something that we can't get funding through them. The Connect Oregon portion would be more or less for the cargo and the related facilities such as the site excavation and the access road to the facility. Sorry,
So-
rushing my time.
Teresa,
Yes,
our 5-minute times has elapsed.
because I am done.
Perfect.
All right, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Next up, we have
Wait,
3A0440 Prospect State Airport Runway Reconstruction and Electrical Improvements Project by Tony Beach. And okay, there we go. And Tony, you are ready to start screen sharing.
Okay, thank you. Good morning again. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see the runway reconstruction electrical improvement project? Okay.
We can.
Okay. This is for the Prospect State Airport, the runway reconstruction electrical improvement project. This airport was constructed in 1963. It's used for recreation, commerce, and wildfire operations. And it connects its local community to the National Air Transportation System. And this airport does not receive any federal funds. And the runway pavement is at its end of life after being maintained for more than or almost 60 years. The airport is heavily used for wildfire staging and response, and also serves as a vital alternate landing site for in-flight emergencies in the lower Cascade Mountain Range, where landing options are limited due to the area's mountainous terrain. Just a couple of photos showing the scale of the wildfire operation at this airport. Last fall, the runway was closed for 49 days due to significant pavement hazards, including cracks that could cause loss of directional control for aircraft and numerous sinkholes from failed subbase and previous patches. And I have a couple of photos showing the severity of these hazards. I think there's a delay in my share here. Okay. Okay, the runway has since partially reopened. It is currently closed to aircraft over 4,000 pounds, and the runway 2 threshold was displaced 225 feet, reducing the landing takeoff distances to 3,775 feet. We continue to monitor our pavement conditions, and our fear is that we will need to close the runway again as conditions deteriorate. Without Connect Oregon funding, we won't be able to reconstruct the runway, and we're worried we could lose this modal connection. The airport's electrical system is also non-functioning. Here's a picture of the windsock, and then runway edge lighting and the airport's beacon. This project would reconstruct the runway to full length, 4,000 feet. It would reconstruct the connecting taxiways. It would grade the safety areas. It would replace the storm drain culvert, and would have a useful life well in excess of 20 years. We expect 40 years out of it. And then for electrical improvements, we would get a new rotating beacon. We would install new electrical conduit and cable for the windsock. We would replace the edge lighting with runway reflectors and construct new electrical building with a restroom and pilot lounge. And we expect the life expectancy to exceed 20 years. Our Connect Oregon grant request is just under $1.7 million, and with our application match, just under $800,000, which is a 32% match. And our total project estimate is $2,490,000 with $193,000 contingency. We expect this project would take 16 months once awarded funds, and construction would begin April 23, and the project would conclude in late summer through the fall of 23. This project has support from Representative Vicky Brees Iverson and John Ratcher, the former Jackson County Commissioner and search and rescue pilot who frequently uses the Prospect State Airport, and Brim Aviation, a helicopter operator that specializes in firefighting, emergency relief, power line construction, and maintenance and more. Are there any questions?
Anything?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Tony. I'm wondering, how come no federal funding?
No federal funding because the Prospect State Airport is not in the National Plan of Integrated Airport System.
Okay, I thought. And has there been any exploration of any emergency management or firefighting types of grants with other agencies?
I'd be happy to pursue those. I haven't seen any in my time with the Department of Aviation, but absolutely, we continue to look at any opportunities for funding.
Okay, Heather, back to you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Tony. Let's see. Moving on, and we will not be hearing 3A0436 Cape Blanco State Airport, as that received funding in the latest legislative package. So we will move forward to 3A0458 Grants Pass Runway 1331 Extension. Josephine County, you are up. Please share your screen.
Okay, it's great to be with you guys today. Let me pull this up. Okay, so my name is Jason Davis. I'm the director for Josephine County Airports. I'm here today to present to you our runway extension project at the Grants Pass Airport. So we have a 4,000-foot runway at the Grants Pass Airport. It's not big enough for some of the base aircraft that we have to operate at full capacity, cause them to operate constrained, which is not good. Dutch Brothers, Colvin Oil, PacJet are some of the businesses here on the airfield. There's many more that would benefit from a longer runway. There is also an increase of jet traffic from out of the area that comes to the Grants Pass Airport on a regular basis, visiting various different business and tourist attractions in the Grants Pass in the Josephine County area. Extending the runway to 1,500 feet.
Jason?
Yes.
I'm sorry, press pause. Do you want me to share my screen?
Can you not see my slides?
We cannot see your slides.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
I pressed pause, so that's okay.
Yeah, would you share yours?
I'd be happy to. Give me a moment, please.
Okay.
Thank you, Kathy.
I'm very sorry about that.
Are you seeing the background slide?
Yes.
Okay, you're on.
Okay, so we'll start at background. So the 4,000-foot runway is not long enough for some of the base aircraft at our airport to operate safely. They end up operating with some constraints to passengers and fuel. Dutch Brothers, Colvin Oil, PacJet are just a few of the businesses here on the airfield that would benefit from a longer runway. There's also a big increase in jet traffic into the Grants Pass Airport for various different reasons, business opportunities, traveling for tourism and and things like that. Let's see. Extending the runway by 1,500 feet allows larger aircraft to operate at a maximum takeoff weight without constraints. They're doing it for me. So. Sorry. Oh, yes, please move to the next slide. I'm sorry. I keep thinking I'm online. Okay, so poor weather increases the need for a longer runway to meet safety requirements for some of these aircrafts. Increase aviation business opportunity, tourism, and travel for the state and locally would be one of the big benefits. We see this project lasting 20+ years as it becomes part of the airport infrastructure that we would obviously maintain, hopefully for the life, which hopefully will be forever of the airport. Next slide, please. The Connect Oregon ask for this project is actually for the additional 800 feet needed beyond the 700 feet that we're getting from an AIP grant from the FAA. And it would only be for the runway extension itself, not the taxi lanes. So the taxi lanes would be AIP eligible in the future project, and that would happen following the completion of this project. We are overmatched 55% for this ask, and the completion date is 2025, and it is subject to the AIP portion of the project that we're doing with the FAA, as it will need to happen at the same time. So 2025 would be the completion. We've actually already started this project. We have a current EA environmental assessment in process right now. And so we're excited to continue and hopefully get the full length. It really would benefit this airport. In my opinion, it's really part of the needed infrastructure to continue growth of this airport. Next slide, please. Okay, so some of the local tenants that we have that have actually written support letters are Dutch Brothers. Pacific Aviation is our main FBO, our only FBO at the airport at the moment. And the city of Grants Pass has also partnered with us. So these are big partners. And of course, you can see the list of others. There's many more than that. And the final slide. Trying to make this quick for you guys. So any questions if we have time?
Anything from the board? Just real quick, any zoning issues, or do you already own the property for the extension?
Nope, we own all of the property for the extension.
Okay, super, thanks.
Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Josephine County. We appreciate that.
No problem.
Next up is also yours. 3A0459 Illinois Valley Airport Aircraft Fueling System. Would you like Kathy to
Yes,
put her slides up? Okay,
I'm not
perfect.
sure why it's not working on my end, but
It's fine. Kathy?
okay, so again, Jason Davis, Josephine County Airports Director. I'm here now to present the fueling system for the Illinois Valley Airport. Next slide, please. So this project is something that we've actually needed for a long time at this airport as well. Illinois Valley Airport is located 6 miles south of Cave Junction on Highway 199. It's used every year for U.S. Forest Service operations and ODF operations for wildland firefighting in the area, for Southern Oregon and Northern California, actually, for that matter, and medevac flights throughout the year. Next slide, please. This airport is home to the Siskiyou Smoke Jumper Base, which has an amazing history. Captain Drake's flight instruction, and a new company that just moved in, Colorcraft Northwest. They paint heavy lift helicopters for various different helicopter companies like Siller Aircraft and those kind of companies that also help with wildland firefighting operations. There's also Illinois Valley Airport is also a tourist destination, wine tasting, Oregon caves, and of course the infamous Illinois Valley River and much more. Next slide, please. Okay, so one thing that this airport has always been lacking is a good form of fuel, whether it's for firefighting operations or businesses on the airfield, travelers, whatever it might be. This has been something that has been needed for a long time. And again, something that I very much believe is that this is something hindering the growth of this airport and hindering people from being able to move freely around the state and of course, the Pacific Northwest to get to their various destinations. Another thing that I want to throw out there is these are fuel tanks. So these have a lifespan of at least 30 years, but I believe we can get much more out of them because they're above ground tanks. So this is going to serve us well into the future. Next slide, please. This project is not AIP eligible as it is revenue generating. The total cost for this project is $1.2 million. The Connect Oregon ask is $840,000. And the matching funds available are 30%, $360,000 of Josephine County ARPA funds. The project completion is no later than January of 2024, but it is expected to be done halfway through 2023. Next slide, please. U.S. Forest Service, Mercy Flights, Illinois Valley Community Development, and more have also given us support letters backing this project up. So there's definitely a vested interest in the community to make these things happen, which is great. And of course, the final slide, please. If there are any questions, if I have time.
Jason, I was talking earlier with Bay over there. Did we end up giving you some money from the core grants for this, or?
No, not for this project.
Not for this project. I got my projects mixed. All right, thanks.
Yep, thank you.
Chair Meeker, if I could clarify, Jason, can you speak to the money that the legislature gave you last week?
So there, I don't know that we have it yet, is my understanding, but there is a potential for some funds to be made available through Representative Morgan for the Illinois Valley Airport in particular. The thought is that we may utilize those funds in lieu of ARPA and maybe free up some of that ARPA money for other projects within the county. I don't know exactly how it's going to work out yet, so a little bit don't want to answer too much about that. I'm not entirely sure. I was told by Representative Morgan to not count on that money. It may not actually happen. So
I guess we'll talk later on this. I just need to make sure that when we go in to the final review committee, that we're clean on this, because they're going to, they'll call out if we're double tapping. So we just need to make sure that we get our P's and Q's on this one.
Yeah, and it was an afterthought. And we kept everything in place the way it was because we were told, don't hold your breath. So
copy that. We want to get you all the money we can, but we just got to make sure that we don't do something that's going to forfeit our credibility at the FRC.
Absolutely, I understand.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Jason. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll revisit this at the end to when we have board deliberations and discussion, and if there's any additions that staff can provide you and or the director who has more information on some of the monies that were just allocated through the legislature. So we will revisit that. Moving on, our next applicant is 4A0432 Klamath Falls Regional Airport Reconstruct Runway 725. John Barslow, you are up. Please
Good
share
morning.
your screen. Good morning.
Thank you. Let's see if I can make sure I can get it right here.
And by
Let's
the way,
see.
it's great to see you, John.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to see all of you as well. How's that? Can you see that okay?
We got it up on the
Okay. All right. So basically this is a reconstruct of runway 725, which will be later named 826. It's the airport's secondary runway. And the PCI report indicates that it's fair. We've had to shut the east half of the runway down for several of the winter months because of some frost heaving and some other issues with the pavement that make it unsuitable for aircraft operations during those months. Fortunately, we've not had any accidents yet. We've been able to stay atop of that, but it's definitely in need of replacement and reconstruction. So here is just kind of a project description. It's broken down into 8 different phases. The idea here is that we need to accommodate all the various users at the airport. For example, let me see, I can move in here a little bit. This area, the purple, we don't want to do that until it's night work because this is our main runway, and that becomes a problem if we don't phase it. Same thing with all of the other aspects of this project. So it's going to take us a lot longer to do, but I think overall it serves the community and the users. The users are agriculture, firefighting aircraft. It's also a basically a reliever runway for when the F-15 activity is going on, aircraft can still use the crosswind runway. Obviously for crosswind purposes as well as our cargo operations. So our ask is pretty simple. It's we have a 94, almost 95% match. We're only asking $550,000. The project cost is almost $11 million to do. And very simple, trying to save you the time for other things.
All right, any questions from board members out there?
I have one just because I want to say hi to John. Hi, John.
Hi, Catherine. Nice to see you.
And is this a secondary runway or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the crosswind runway. It's a secondary.
Okay. Thank you.
And the FAA in our master plan is requiring us to shrink it actually from 5,000, I think 258 to 5,000 feet, and also to narrow it from 100 feet to 75 feet. So that's real unfortunate. And most of it's going to be funded by the FAA, but I felt like we needed to get this ask in.
Okay, fantastic. And like I said, great to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, John.
You bet.
Moving forward to our next applicant is 4A0463. That's the Bend Air Traffic Control Tower. And Tracy Williams will be presenting. You can go ahead and share your screen anytime. Good morning, Tracy.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and thanks for having me. And Kathy, if you're ready to share my presentation, I'm ready.
All righty, well, good morning.
All right, once again, everyone, thanks for the opportunity to present. The ask is for a Connect Oregon grant in the amount of approximately $4.9 million by the city of Bend for this critical safety project. And the project is obligated to be completed by October 2025. Next slide, please. As you know, there's 97 public use airports in the state of Oregon. In terms of operations, Bend Municipal is the 3rd busiest in the state, and of the top 5 busiest is the only one without an air traffic control tower. Important to note here is the Central Oregon airspace and neighboring airports, which includes Redmond, Prideville, and Madras, have experienced tremendous growth over the last few years. Further complicating this situation is that the flying community is a diverse mix of flight schools, which includes both helicopters and light aircraft, along with high performance jets, turboprops, firefighting aircraft, and airliners. Much of the congestion is a result of the number of practice approaches flown under both VFR and IFR conditions. At Bend, that means see and avoid to deconflict. Next slide, please. Aligned are the top 5 busiest airports: Portland, Hillsborough, Bend, Troutdale, and Redmond. Yes, Bend has more operations than Redmond. The most important capital improvement project desired by our airport stakeholders is an air traffic control tower. Next slide, please. The need for an air traffic control tower at Ben continues to grow and has been the topic of discussion for quite some time. Back in 2008, a preliminary air traffic control tower siting analysis was completed, and as a result, it was determined that Ben did not qualify. Fast forward to 2020, Ben was finally accepted into the federal contract tower program with 5 unfunded years to have it constructed and operational. 2022, the city of Bend anticipates issuing a contract for a site selection and environmental study for the ultimate tower location. I'll be doing that next week. Next slide, please. This is a visual of what the Bend Municipal Airport Air Traffic Control Tower could look like. Let me close with an additional visual. Imagine driving down the freeway at 100 miles an hour. Then a slower moving vehicle merges in front of you, traveling at 50 miles an hour. Conflict resolution at that time would be critical. While none of us would likely choose to drive 100 miles an hour down the freeway, in our diverse airspace with different aircraft operating characteristics, that includes high performance jets, they have no choice but to come in fast, while slower moving aircraft like gliders also have limitations. This is every day at the Bend Municipal Airport. A tower would result in controlled conflict resolution and increased safety. Next slide, please. I mentioned that a tower at the Bend Airport is very important to our stakeholders. Our stakeholders include over 200 base tenants, and our largest stakeholder is Central Oregon Community College. Since 2006, Central Oregon Community College Aviation Program has graduated over 200 students. 70% of these students come from outside of Central Oregon. Their program generates annually between $4 to $5 million for on-airport businesses. I didn't even touch on outside of the airport. So they also include 40 flight instructors as employees. The graduates go on for employment, as pilots for airlines, firefighting organizations, emergencies, firefighters, etc. And so with that, I believe that a grant in the amount of $4.9 million roughly by the Connect Oregon program is an excellent candidate. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. Anything for the board? All right. Thanks, Tracy. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
All righty.
All right, fantastic. Moving on to our next applicant is 4A0478 Erickson Aero Tanker Expansion Project. And I believe will be presented by Gus Burrell. Feel free to share your screen when you're ready.
Okay, thank you very much. Switching that over to you there. Okay. Hi, my name is Gus Burrell. I'm the Madras City Administrator. And with me is Matt Isley, the Erickson Aero Tanker Manager. And I'll have him speak on behalf of their company in just a moment. Quick overview or some points here to share with you. Looking at expanding the fleet operation, adding addition of hangar and some heavy aircraft apron space to the taxiway. It plans to add jobs and will be serving the federal and state wildland fire response. It leverages a lot of private investment in addition to adding jobs and is already contributing to the Oregon community for our economy. And they have some things that are not listed in here. Is the city of Madras worked with this Connect Oregon program and the State Aviation Board to build the original hangar in the 2008-9 time period, where Butler Aircraft expanded out of Redmond. And then in 2012, Erickson Aero Tanker took them over and then moved some additional operation out of the Tillamook area. And so they're operating a couple hangars out of Madras Airport at this time. And so this project's consistent with our airport master plan. It's adjacent to the existing hangars that are there, both the heavy aircraft hangar and the Air Museum hangar, and it would be adjacent north of there. And we have some infrastructure that we've already extended up there. So we believe we're well positioned and ready. The land is under our ownership, and we believe we're ready to go. I would like to hand this over to Matt now to talk to us about what Erickson Aero Tanker has been doing and wants to do for expanding their economic activities here in Oregon. Matt, can you take it over? You might have to unmute. Matt, can you hear us?
How about that?
Okay, there you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thanks again for to the board for giving me this opportunity to chat today. As Gus mentioned, my name is Matt Isley. I'm the general manager with Erickson Aero Tanker. And as he mentioned, we are engaged in aerial firefighting. We're headquartered in Hillsboro, but our aerial firefighting assets, our tankers, are based in Madras. And that's where we do a lot of our maintenance, a lot of our wintertime maintenance. As you probably know, they spend a lot of time out of state during the season where the wildfires are. And over the years, to meet an overwhelming need in the country for large aerial firefighting tankers, we have expanded from the original 3 DC-7s that came about from the Butler acquisition to what is today a fleet of 6 MD-87s. And of course, all the parts that go along with that to support that, and all the mechanics and all the pilots. So we're requesting funding to supplement an addition to our existing facility. Gus has the diagram up, the Madras facilities there. On the north end of our existing facility, we would like to add a hangar that is capable of housing 2 MD-87s. They have 32-foot tail height. So larger, a little bit larger facility than what we have now. And the reason for the additional facility is we are planning to invest another $22 to $30 million over the next 5 years to expand our fleet. We want to build 3 more tankers. One of those is we're already getting started on right now. And what that means is we need more space for our off-season maintenance. We need space for additional people, and we need just an overall bigger facility to conduct our work in. We fill up that hangar pretty full when we're in there for winter maintenance. So while the aircraft can live outside, they're airliners, aircraft can live outside. The folks working on them usually complain about that with the Madras winters over there. So I haven't figured out a better solution than moving it indoors. So that's what we're asking for help with. And again, that $22 to $30 million investment from us, that's over and above what would cost to build the hangar. We're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 14 million, and we're asking for a portion of that to be funded by an Oregon Connect grant. And we think that's a great use of Oregon Connect resources to expand this vital capability. Thank you.
Can we answer any questions you might have?
Anything for the board?
I have a clarifying question. So the hangar being built, would it then be owned by the airport or owned by Erickson?
The city of Madras would follow the grant covenants if we need to own it for a minimum 20 years and lease to Butler. That's what we're currently doing with the Connect Oregon 2 hangar, and that's worked out really well. So we are flexible to the requirements of the program.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it, yes.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to our next application. It's 5A0439 Morrow County Lexington Airport Utility Expansion Project.
Yes, hello, everybody. Thank you, board, for meeting today. I don't have any fancy screenshot or anything, just use your imagination. Morrow County Lexington Airport is diamond in the rough, primarily agriculture. However, due to expansion and growth of Amazon data centers and our renewable energy, we have some of the biggest windmill farms in Morrow County. So that's bringing a lot of economic growth. And the airport is needing to advance in the development of, due to several requests for fiber connection and electrical services. We'd like to have hangar development, and we can't do that without electrical or fiber work. The development would be excellent for housing avionics repair, drone activity, UAS. We work with the UAS department out of Pendleton, and they come and practice their flights. The 1 mile runway has a parallel taxiway. It's an open space with a beautiful view of the Blue Mountains, gives this area the welcoming space for any entrepreneur to come and grow and prosper and share their ideals. I'm asking for $296,000. I'm hoping that's enough to kind of slip in some of the cracks with some of these bigger requests, and just to kind of finalize some items. I talk about the drone activity. I feel very excited, and I want to push this project because I'm an Amazon shopper, and I don't know if anybody else is. I'm sure COVID made us Amazon shoppers, but the drone activity was out of Hood River, and they're testing for how the wind speed and how this drone handles this package in these wind storms. And they had up to 80 pounds one time, and the drone did fine and made its drop. And I thought, all right, Amazon. So anyway, that's the end of my spiel. And thank you very much. And I love this opportunity. It's great to have Connect Oregon back.
Well, super. Thanks for your presentation. Any questions out there from the board? All righty. Well, thanks much.
Okay, wonderful. We will move on to our next application. It's 5A0444 Union County Fuel and Maintenance Facility Improvements. Union County, you're ready to go ahead and share your screen.
Can everyone see that, and can everyone hear me?
Yes, and yes.
Let's see, I'll do something here. Are we good? Okay, first of all, I'm Doug Wright, Union County Public Works and Airport Director. Thank you very much, board, for allowing me this time to talk about the LeGrand Union County Airport Maintenance Hangar and Fuel System Connect Oregon grant. Background: in 2021, there was a jet A fuel shortage along the West Coast. The airport is in need of a new maintenance facility, including a safety hangar for housing helicopters and other aircraft during hailstorms and during winter months to allow aircraft to de-ice. Helicopters currently have to divert and fly out of the path of storms. This is detrimental to the need of rapid initial attack. The airport needs an additional 5,000-gallon fuel truck to increase storage capacity and deliver fuel to response air tankers and helicopter contractors. The airport needs new electrical generators to provide backup power for fuel farm and FBO operations for emergency response during power outages. Connect Oregon funds will provide a new 10,000-gallon fuel tank, a new 5,000-gallon fuel truck, a new airport maintenance hangar shop, a new aircraft safety hangar, and new electrical backup generators. I'll just say that the total ask of the Connect Oregon grant is $980,000, and Union County is bringing $420,000 to the table for a 30% match for a total project cost of $1.4 million. Footprint of emergency fire retardant delivery is 200 air miles. Firefighting aircraft from the Grand Union County Airport provide emergency fire fighting responsible multiple adjoining counties as well too in neighboring states, Washington and Idaho. The Grand Union County Airport's current Jet A storage capacity is approximately 40,000 gallons. Air tanker fleet used to transport and deliver wildland firefighting retardant has been modernized. Prop propelled aircraft have been transitioned to jet propelled aircraft utilizing Jet A fuel. Modernization has put undue strain on the Grand Union County Airport's ability to supply Jet A fuel to firefighting aircraft. Jet A retardant planes can and consumed in excess of 15,000 gallons of Jet A fuel in a single afternoon. What that means for us at 15,000 gallons and a 40,000 gallon capacity, that's a 2.5 day capacity that we have on hand. As soon as I need fuel, I'm making calls to my vendors to get the fuel to La Grande. They're always telling me 3.5 days to 5 days before we'll get the first truck. So I'm immediately trying to get as many trucks into the queue as I can. By upping our storage capacity to 55,000 gallons, that will give me 3.5 days of supply. Here you'll see that this is the footprint or site plan of our project. You'll see here where we're going to locate a new hangar for a helicopter and other aircraft, a new maintenance shop hangar as well. And I will mention too that I've gone through the pen and ink process with FAA, and I have that cleared through FAA planning. And I also have this site cleared for environmental. This site is ready to build on right now. It is cleared, it is shovel ready. In my fuel farm, you'll see that I will take out 100 low lead tank and replace it with that Jet A. I do not need 20,000 gallons of 100 low lead on hand anymore because of this transition. A fuel truck and generators and go from there. So basically this project is needed. This project to be able to increase our capacity. This project will also increase revenue for our airport. And with that, I do believe I have Commissioner Paul Andrus online if he would like to make some comments or take questions.
Thank you, Doug. For the record, I'm Union County Commissioner Paul Andrus. I appreciate the opportunity to address you this afternoon. I would really like to talk about the public safety component of this. Prior to becoming a county commissioner, school teacher, in summer times I fought wildland fire on Forest Service initial attack crews. And there is really not a worse feeling in this world than ordering up either a helicopter or a retardant plane and either not getting it or being delayed. And the conversion to the LATs and VLATs and heavier jet air tankers have really made the consumption of fuel a lot more in our area. Last summer, for example, we had fires just over the border in Washington in 2 different locations, as well as one in Wallowa County. And those retardant planes were making pretty hot laps going back and forth between those and really helped, especially in the fire in Wallowa County, check that fire where it was. We also have the super base of repellers, Grandron repellers, which combine 2 different rappel bases. And now we've got one of the largest rappel bases in the nation. The fact that if we get a unfortunately all too common thunder cell coming through in the summertime, especially with hail, those helicopters have to move off location, which really doesn't lend itself to that quick initial attack. Life flight is another consideration, as noted. Being able to de-ice the planes, incredibly important, or get those out of inclement weather.
Commissioner?
Yes.
The time has elapsed.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Great, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that.
Wonderful. We'll move on to our final presentation, and that's 5A0447, Grant County Regional Airport widen and rehab runway 1735. You are up and can share your screen.
Thank you all. What a great list of projects today. And we are also here to talk about funding request for our Grant County Regional Airport widen and reconstruct runway 1735 project. So this project is needed because our current runway width is only 60 feet. And it does not meet our FAA Airplane Design Group 2 standard of 75 feet. And this is required by our current critical aircraft, which is the Air Tractor 802A, for both width and runway strength. The critical aircraft supports wildland firefighting efforts for the Oregon Department of Forestry as well as the Forest Service. And upgraded runway improves the safety and usefulness of the Oregon multimodal transportation system in Eastern Oregon. So it's also justified. Recommended in our 2018 Airport Master Plan. It's justified in the 2022 FAA Environmental Assessment and FONSI that we are going through the closeout of currently. Just a note that we were the top ranked Connect Oregon Aviation Project and the #3 overall project ranking by the Southeast Area Commission on Transportation that occurred in January of this year. This project is approved by the FAA Seattle ADO. It's supported by the Oregon Department of Forestry for aerial firefighting operations and also supported by the Forest Service for their aerial firefighting operations. How does this benefit the Oregon transportation system? So it connects remote Eastern Oregon to population centers to the west, supports the U.S. Forest Service jobs and infrastructure, supports the Oregon Department of Forestry jobs and infrastructure. It also provides an airport that safely serves light business jets and provides redundancy in the Oregon transportation system during a potential Cascadia event. What does the funding look like? So currently the Connect Oregon requirement is 30% match. We actually have a 90% match funded by the FAA for the project construction. The Oregon Department, or excuse me, the Connect Oregon grant match will leverage the FAA grant for significant impact to Oregon aviation. So I have those numbers for you. The construction project of this total project cost is $7,277,778. The FAA is committed to funding $6,550,000. So the Connect Oregon match request is $727,778. This is obviously for the project two, or excuse me, phase 2 of this project. The FAA and the Oregon Department of Aviation funded the design of the project. That is going through the grant agreement process currently. And the environmental analysis has already been completed by the FAA. So we are working through that design in 2022, anticipated for this project to begin construction early 2023. That is it for me. Thank you again for the opportunity. Happy to see Connect Oregon back and us able to potentially use those dollars.
All right, thanks, Heidi. Any questions for the board before she leaves? All righty, thank you very much.
Okay, so that concludes the presentation portion for the board and the modal committee. Then the next on our agenda is the lunch break. And because when you will be returning, it is all a board deliberations and board, we can change the lunch break time. It is up to you, Madam Chair, how you'd like to proceed.
I'm up for just taking a half hour and starting, at a quarter till. I know Hilda was looking to join us. Was she looking to come in at 1 or?
Well, this actually might work better. I will ping her and let her know that due to everybody's efficiency and all the presenters being so time conscious, that we got this done in a very efficient fashion.
All right, fantastic. Any board member have an issue with just taking half an hour for lunch and then picking it back up? Okay, hearing that, I guess I will see you all back here at 12:45.
Perfect. We'll see you all then. And you're talking about the full total ask. Yes, Kathy, right?
That is correct.
So we have a total ask of over 128 from all the modal reviews. And then how many Connect Oregon? How many, let's start off with just an overview of the program. How much money does Connect Oregon have for us this session?
Okay. So Kathy, did we pull that together? Was that in one of those slides?
Not that I have. I've got the spreadsheet for the number of projects total. I have the aviation. And of course, there are now not 19, but 18.
So there are 18 aviation projects. Connect Oregon has approximately $34 million from the last legislative session to be able to move forward. Or is that not right, Betty? You look like that's not accurate.
Okay, for this round, 46 million.
Sorry, 46 million, yes. And that does not include any additions that could be coming as a part of any other projects. So there could be more, and they'll go over that in the final review committee. Kathy had just mentioned the total projects listed was 100 and
the total amount that's being requested under Connect Oregon is approximately $128 million.
128 million for all modes.
Yes. And there's some
Yes.
in there for rail.
Correct. So the list that we sent to you this morning was the board's averaged list based upon, we had started when I sent you the reviews with what ODOT put together from the statutory reviews and all of the department reviews and the economic reviews. And then they tiered them, they ranked them, and I sent that to you with your reviews. The board individually reviewed and individually put together their rankings. We took the individual rankings and averaged them up, and that's why you see ties in yours. So this next part of the afternoon, my remarks and instructions before we get to some clarifying questions and answers, we'll walk you through a little bit of what the expectation is. ODOT is expecting that aviation provide them with a ranked list of all projects 1 through 18 since the Cape Blanco project was removed. And the starting point is the averaged one. I thought it made the most sense if you wanted to use that or break ties or move things around. There has been some additional clarifications this year because rulemaking was done in 2015, and I believe you were a part of that, Martha. The tiering is not weighed as heavily as it was in the past. You can, as a board and the modal committee, move projects from tier 3 to tier 1 or tier 2 to tier 1 if you feel that project should be moved up to a tier 1 or anywhere up the list. ODOT still wants to know why and is requesting that we provide justification or why you would see it fit to move a project like that. So that's a big change from times in the past as we go through these.
And Heather, just real quick to talk to the board members, when you go into the final review committee, there's upwards of 40 people. So the discussion of, you take a grant as whole, there's no discussion of, well, can you break the grant up and can we change it to get it in? There's none of that. You take it and you take it at its face value. Otherwise, it would devolve into chaos. Also, the board is really good about trying to stay, they're not parochial. They're not there to argue their modal. They're there to take a real look, and if a project makes sense, they'll support it. But I will say they'll smoke it out in 2 seconds if we try to do something silly. So I would caution against it. It's got to fit the rules of Connect Oregon. And the emphasis on Connect Oregon is, building the transportation sector and enhancing economic jobs. So when we go forward, if we want our projects to compete well, we must mesh with Oregon, with Connect Oregon's rules. Otherwise we just won't do well. Also, when we got into discussion, what seemed to work well back in 2015 was, matching dollars, pulling funds into the region from the federal. That did very well for Oregon aviation, because we're the biggest pull of federal dollars from all the modal committees. So that worked well for us. And then probably at some point, they're going to look around the table and they're going to make sure that we have money given to all 5 regions.
Not necessarily.
I'm just saying, I know it's not a rule, but I'm just saying at the end of the bid, 10 to 1, we're going to go around at the end of the table and we're all going to go, why don't we give some money to this region over here? Sure. I know it's not in the rules. I'm just saying that's what's going to happen.
Sure. It used to be a rule, just to let all the other board members know, in the past, there was a requirement to give at least 10% of the now $46 million to each region. There's no longer set asides for regional amounts.
Copy that. Be aware politically that, it probably would behoove us to make sure we have something in each region.
Agreed. I just was letting you know rule wise. So there's no hard stop at 10%. As long as we do, we see projects fairly, I think that's what they're looking for as well. And I think those are really good points to bring in, especially since we have new board members participating in this. Before we get into discussion, I want to throw this out to all of the board members. Do you have any clarifying modal committee type questions that I can help you answer or go through as we look to provide a final list of aviation projects modally?
Heather, I do have one addition if you could give to the spreadsheet before we go to the final review committee. I would like a % match from the asking organizations be added to a column. That's just for our reference when we get to the FRC.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I can go ahead and do that. So, and just so the rest of the board knows, those are in the those % matches also increased scores to the projects. The higher the % match or overmatch in some cases also would be beneficial to an applicant for their final scoring and could actually increase them from a tier 2 to a tier 1 project or a tier 3, even to a tier 1 if they had that substantial of overmatch. Generally, FAA projects carry that overmatch because they're 90% funded by the FAA, and they bring a lot to the table. But I'll include that column too for the final.
So overall, so we think we probably got about a third of the dollars needed to do all of the grants across all 4 modalities. It's hard to say where the line's going to fall. I probably, it's a safe bet to say that those projects in the bottom half of our ranking may be not funded. I don't know. Aviation did well last time, but there's not a lot of dollars going into this. So I think probably we should be careful about our, make sure we really get a solid top 10 that we all believe in. And then we can kind of chew around the edges if you want after that. Your thoughts, Heather?
Those are my thoughts exactly. I would say it's a little bit different. So it's even harder to put a imaginary cut line, if you will, because the percentages won't shake out like they used to, because we've never just done a 3-mode Connect Oregon program. It's always had, well, we haven't in a very long time. And we had included bike ped in the past. So it will be interesting to see where it does shake out. it may not even go to the fairness of a third split because of the price tag on some of the other modal projects. But I would say a top 10, given the cost of our projects, would be really good.
Okay.
Kathy, can you put up the score sheet that we sent out this morning so that the board can see that? And did you all receive a copy of this in your email?
Anyone not receive a copy?
There you go. That's helpful.
Okay, so with that, we got a couple of folks. It seems like we both we all like the Medford and the Klamath. They had scored the Bend air traffic control and the Josephine runway extension higher than Klamath. Anybody that wants to talk? Anybody that really got a preference one way or the other? Let's just say let's stay in those that were ranked 99 or higher. We'll stay with that. Then we'll kind of hit up prospects since that's ours anyway, going down.
Hey, Martha.
Yeah, go ahead.
So just maybe a process question, because clearly we've got some averages in there, but candidly, I had some different views on some of the projects, and so while the average turns out okay. I guess to me, there was a couple of projects that I had some more, I guess, specific questions on that maybe Heather could answer. And then I'm sort of curious about, I had an algorithm, I guess, about how I went through and scored them. And some of the projects that scored a little bit higher didn't fit well with the logic that I was using in the scoring. And I don't know if other board members, we probably all had our own sort of sense of how we went through it. And I know there were some rules that we had to follow. And I tried to do that, but there were two projects in particular that I struggled with a little bit that rank higher than this. And so I wonder about, do we need to go through some of them before we just sort of go into the, hey, here was the average, and are we okay with that? It's a process question. I throw it out to other board members as well.
No, Vince, I think that's perfect. I think we got to get into the questions, and I had asked Heather why Grant County went so low, and there were some other questions we had. So I think that's perfect, and I think that needs to be brought out.
Okay.
So and I can tell you, yes, Vince, you're exactly right. That's what the modal committee is for. You have the opportunity to re-rank the projects as you see fit, and have more latitude than you've ever been given in the past in which to do so. The tiering doesn't weigh as much as it used to. That said, the reason that the original list was put together was based upon the statutory review questions that are completely objective, not subjective. Very different from how you all were probably reviewing. So when agency and economic departments were reviewing each application, it's a hard number, right? Does it meet this? Does it have overmatch? Here is the number that it has to be given if it has this. So the statutory reviews are not subjective reviews. So that's where the list came from. Also, a part of that has to do with the mission of Connect Oregon and some of the things that Martha just described as well. So that said, that's why some of the projects ranked differently than you probably would have given them.
Yeah.
Well, Heather, can we do this? Can we have the board members ask their questions on particular airports, and maybe we can dig a little bit on what may have made an airport score lowly? And if we disagree with that, then the board is well within our due to say we disagree with this particular area, and we want to raise it because of this particular reason X, Y, and Z. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. That makes sense. And that is what you're here to do.
Okay. So Vince, you started us off. You want to talk a little bit about where you saw some differences in scoring and your concerns, and maybe a little bit of delve into why some airports scored as they did.
Sure. And to me, there were really two projects, and I learned some things today. So this was really helpful to get to hear the presenters. And it's always hard because every one of these projects is great. And you know, they all have really valid reasons for doing it. So, but there were the two that sort of stood out to me that I ranked lower, and was the Bend Air Traffic Control Tower, and also the eVTOL Cargo Pacific Northwest Seafood Transfer Facility. Because of they to me were quite different than I guess the thought process that was in my head. And I'll just, you know, my algorithm here was I'm a big fan of hard infrastructure that is ready to go. And I know it's going to get used, and I know it's going to get used right off the bat. Versus, you know, the Pacific Northwest Seafood Transfer Facility. I appreciate the EV aspect to that. I was curious if they'd had any conversation with FedEx or UPS, and where were they in line, and how important was that? That seemed like it was a really important part of the project. That's the part that got emphasized a lot to me. And yet what I saw today, it was much more of a cargo development project compared to just an EV thing, because it felt to me as I was reading it initially that it was a, hey, if we build it, they'll come. So that's why I ranked it lower in my score. Again, I learned some good things about that today. And the Bend Air Traffic Control Tower, very much a safety issue. Less about a hard infrastructure. And I got all of her points on it today. But in my own thought process of when I looked at what it took for an airport to even function and operate, that's why I ranked some of the projects a little bit higher. You know, Corvallis on their runway, I had them higher because, you know, that's pavement that needed to be maintained, in my opinion, versus, and I don't ever want to, you know, take away from safety at all, but you know, I was questioning whether Corvallis was even functional. And Cresswell, the pictures that they showed us, oh my goodness, you know, I ranked those higher, and versus an air traffic control tower where I ranked the infrastructure, the pavement, higher than I did that piece of it. So that's kind of, and I candidly, I didn't look at the tiers. I separated all of that in my head. I figured that was more a statutory thing that had to be done, and they did whatever they did. So I sort of put that aside, and I looked at the project on its merits, and that's kind of how I came to the conclusions. And so, Heather, I don't know if there's anything that you can talk a little bit more about. Certainly the electrical and cargo. You know, who doesn't love that project? But again, in my head, it was let's build it. If we build it, they'll come. I'll stop rambling now.
No, those are all really good points. And per the applications, that is how it read. If the applicant is here and you guys want to ask questions throughout this time, you have that ability. They were all told that that could happen during your guys' deliberations. That said, I'm actually glad that you did take the tiers to the side to be able to do that, because that is how a couple of regions actually did it this time too. So it really shouldn't have influenced any, you know, key decisions. But were there questions that you think the applicant could answer for you for that specific application?
Well, I mean, on the the Coos County Airport, okay, so UPS is committed to buy 24 of those electric aircraft in 2024 or whatever that was, but they've only got 24. Are they starting in Coos Bay, or are they going someplace else? And so how much of the project was reliant on the electrical component of this versus what I saw today was much more about a way improved cargo freight facility. But when I read it, it just seemed like, okay, this is all about the EV side of it. And so that's the question. And I wasn't sure if I was supposed to get into that level of detail while she was here or not. So that's why I just held my tongue.
If somebody is on from Southwest Regional and can answer that, that would be great. I do see Catherine's hand up, but I will tell you that is how the application read. And that's why we decide to give all the applicants an opportunity to present their application. Because sometimes they do read a lot different than how they would be explained. Catherine, did you have something to add?
Well, I'm communicating with Kathy right now. It looks like on that right-hand column, a couple of my scores got switched. So just for the record, because I have a conflict of interest for the City of Eugene project, obviously, I scored it the same as how it came into us, so 6. Okay. And actually, it should be, the Coos Bay should have been 3, I believe is how I ranked. So just so you have that straight. And I think I've looked at the rest of them. The rest of them I think are in order correctly, but I'll double check that as well.
On your scores?
Yes.
I think those two just got swapped, Kathy. I think Coos Bay should be, I'll check, Coos Bay should be 3 and EUG should be 6.
Thank you.
And then before we get further into that event, thank you. Sorry, I would be remiss if I didn't put this out to all the rest of the board members. If there is a conflict of interest, if you could please state it now. Catherine just stated her conflict or perceived conflict of interest, and I'll note that. Mike Oliver, would you like to state yours too for the record?
Yeah, I think my conflict of interest is the Erickson Aero Tanker. It's a family-owned company, and it's a conflict for me.
Okay. And so I'm guessing that Shu, you did not rank that or review that project. Is that correct?
I did rank it.
You did rank it. Okay. So what we can do is just, if you kept it in the same ranking that it was, that's fine. You'll just need to let Kathy and I know so we can note that, or we can just kind of remove that completely from your sheet on the ranking piece for our coordination with ODOT.
So I ranked it at number 8. So I don't know what the original ranking was.
Okay. We'll just remove that one from your sheet completely.
Okay.
On your ranking. Was there any other board member that wanted to express a conflict of interest at this time? Okay, wonderful. Is anybody on from Southwest Regional?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Robert from the Coos County Airport District. Teresa Cook is in another meeting. If you had a minute, I can go grab her really quick.
Yeah, we do absolutely have a minute, and we can come back to that when you come back in.
Okay,
That
let
would be
me
great.
go get her and get her on.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Heather, I would like to go with Vince, and just basically, if we could ask her, they put the word, VTOL or electric VTOL in there. Do they have any hard agreements for eVTOL equipment to be coming within? Do they have anything coming? Do they have anything on paper for an eVTOL coming to Coos County? That I just basically want a yes or no.
Okay.
And to me, what I couldn't tell was how much of the project was actually the electric infrastructure. Because if it's not very much, and it's really more about the cargo development, great. But if a whole bunch of it is dependent on getting the VTOLs to be like, it's just going to sit empty until the VTOLs show up, I feel very different about that project than, hey, it's still got other cargo opportunities for it.
Hey, so Teresa's on the line.
Hey, Teresa.
Okay, Teresa, so I know you just heard Vince, but the other question too was, do you have any hard agreements already in place for VTOL right now? And how much of your project is VTOL by percentage, if you will, or is it dependent upon the VTOL?
Okay, so the project's not dependent upon VTOL. It's a added growth project. So, okay, the VTOL's coming in. They're putting it in May. It's going to be installed, and that will give UPS the opportunity to bring their VTOL aircraft to our airport. But we need a cargo facility for cargo and seafood and other things. So that was just an added benefit. The VTOL funding, all that. If it weren't there, we'd still want the cargo facility and everything that goes with it. But we're going to be able to, how do I say, increase our market with it there, and it's going to be there. So it's going to be there. And if we don't get a cargo grant, we won't have a cargo facility. So it'll just be a pleasure thing for golfers coming through rather than enhancing our cargo facility. So did I answer that question?
This is Martha over here on the board. I guess let me be really direct on this one. Are you building on the eVTOL, are you going to plan any facilities that will not have a use right away? Are you building it and hoping they will come, or do you know they will? Are you building anything that will not be utilized right away?
No, what we are building will be utilized by cargo, and our main market would be the seafood, the cargo, etc. It'll be utilized right away. The VTOL is a portion that, like, if the VTOL wasn't there, we still would have everything in place, and it would be specifically for our region to grow demand. But we also wanted to have that piece. That piece will be an asset to enhance future growth in the UPS and in whatever other scenario VTOLs are used for, whether it's whatever. But no, it's so I don't know what. Not sure.
Vince, do you have a follow-up? Because I think what my question would be to Teresa is, what percentage of funding was the eVTOL?
Oh, the VTOL, we are not funding it. VTOL is doing it themselves. Beta, the Beta Corporation is doing all their funding for that.
Okay, does that help the board?
Yeah, I think it helps me that it's really a cargo redevelopment. And the drawings that I saw were much more helpful to me to understand what was happening there. The E side of it that'll be a nice to have, but the infrastructure is pretty minimal compared to what the basic redevelopment is for just all cargo components. So I'm much more educated on that.
Thank you, Vince. Go ahead, Teresa.
Okay, so I can just expand, I guess, that the project funded by FAA and the airport is the concrete to get this to expand the ramp out there so that we can put a cargo facility in there and get multiple utilization out of it. But if we don't get this grant, and we've been trying for a couple of years with different avenues, then we won't have a cargo facility. We won't be able to grow our cargo. I don't know how that works for the entities that do cargo out here, but it's a constraint.
Yeah. Got it.
Okay, are there any other questions while Teresa's on from other board members? Thank you very much, Teresa. I appreciate
Okay.
you taking the time.
All right, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Teresa.
All right, bye.
Heather?
Yes.
Kathy. So what I did was made the 2 changes in the spreadsheet, and I'm still sharing my screen. If you want me to take it down, just say so.
No, I want you to share your screen, keep it sharing, and we'll allow those comments to stay in place.
Okay. The other thing I did was I changed the scores as per Catherine and Mike, and I took the rankings, and I went on to our the averages, and it did not change the position for Eugene or Coos County. What it did change slightly was the position for Erickson, because it was no longer a tie with Mulino. It was a tie for 15th.
Okay, I see that now.
Here. So I just want to bring your attention to that.
Thank you very much for that. And we'll leave Kathy's screen up. Can you make it a little, so that we can see all of them on there? Is that possible?
Yeah. Oops.
Perfect.
Now,
I can see it.
Can you walk us through a little bit? There's, as you mentioned, repairing and replacing pavement is always something that we work for and strive for on the Aviation Board. I think the twist here versus what the Aviation Board normally looks for is Connect Oregon is going to want to have some economic influence in that. So repairing pavement at Prospect may not be as attractive as cargo at Medford. Is that the difference kind of a little bit in what we're seeing in some of the rankings?
So yeah, that's a little bit of it. The other piece to that, for instance, if you take Prospect because of where it landed, and most generally that's an economic piece, right? That's a jobs and economy piece. And when the economists ranked it per their statutory requirements, an airport like that obviously is going to fall a lot lower. It's not going to hit all the statutory marks as high as another project would, especially an infrastructure project. And then the overmatch, right? That's a piece. And that's a state-owned airport that doesn't have the overmatch that, say, a Nipias airport would. So then that's a piece that takes some points out of the whole grand scheme of things. So so for a project like Prospect, in every way that they would get statutory points, you're kind of subtracting some automatically, basically, because there's no way a project like that could meet or exceed the statutory points.
I'm not for sure I followed that at all.
Okay.
Let's go. Just quick question. Why did Cresswell score low?
That's a good question. I would have to look into all of that. Let's see, when we rehabilitation lighting. Let me look. I can get back to you guys on that one, and I'll open up some of the statutory pieces right now.
Okay. Because that might help us understand, what the staff was looking at as they have the Connect Oregon rules in the back of their head versus what we look at.
Right. But again, overmatch is a big piece. Jobs, economy, connections.
Yeah. And Martha, I had Cresswell higher. I think I had them at like 5. And some of that was just because of the match and how much they were leveraging of other funding had significant value to me when I thought about it. So that was, that's kind of how I came to it, even though I understand, they were only asking $250,000, and I forget how big the project is, but that was, so I'm an outlier there compared to everybody else had it, because that's some of the stuff that I liked about it.
Yeah, I just want to know if when we get to the FRC, if there's going to be an issue, they want to bring up economic. I just want to know in particular what drove Cresswell so far down. And hopefully they can just take a quick peek at the score sheets and figure that out. So you had Cresswell, and you had another one, Vince. What was the other one, Corvallis?
Well, I had Corvallis higher than everybody else did too, for really a lot of the same reasons. And without the runway, you're not going to generate the economic activity. There was one, I forget which one, who had an extension, and I ranked that lower because I felt like, look, that had less value to me than just maintaining what you've got so that people can actually operate. And so that's why I had Corvallis and Cresswell higher. Again, some is just the value of the leverage of the funding that we're getting on it. So that was my theory.
Okay.
And I had runways and taxiways higher than I had ramps. So
Copy that. That's the normal. Like I said, I just want to make sure, because I think they're going to add it's the economic piece that's going to be driving a little bit higher bump in some of these that got further up.
So for Corvallis, excuse me, so for Cresswell, it was the economic piece that drove the score lower for that particular project. And then for Corvallis and then the extension project, while they're very, very similar, it was a small difference in economic and then overmatch and matching funds drove the scores to be a little bit different.
Okay.
And remember, this is just your starting point, and it can be as different as you want it to look. This is what your list will be, what the Aviation Modal Committee sees as the most important projects in the view of aviation as a mode.
Copy that. Just trying to get the board needs to kind of go forward with some thoughts that we're looking at. Otherwise, we're going to be all over the place. And then the other big one was the traffic control tower on the city of Bend. That's a significant difference from what Vince has from everybody else. I guess Mike and Vince, do you want to discuss a little bit about the Bend Tower? For me, it's a safety ops. My only concern with that is just looking at the price tag and whether or not the final review committee will swallow one project eating up so much of the funds. I mean, that's almost a fifth of the funds, a sixth of the total funds altogether. But I do believe in air traffic control tower. So,
Catherine, did you have a quick question? I'm sorry.
Yeah. About the Bend Tower, and I'm actually the infrastructure law, and it's specifically for air control.
Catherine, I'm getting feedback. I'm not sure if everybody else is.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
yeah, I couldn't hear any of that.
The power fund through the bipartisan infrastructure law is actually a federal resource for that.
Actually, Catherine, we're not able to hear you at all. Could you put your question in the chat and then we could definitely get to that.
and Catherine, you may try plugging and unplugging your mic because you're coming like a robot, and we can't understand a word you're saying.
Well, Catherine puts it in the chat. Vince, did you have some comments you wanted to make?
On this the Bend air traffic control,
or was it Mike? I'm sorry, I thought there was one other board member that wanted to comment on this project. No,
I think, again, just in my thought process, I was just having a harder time understanding the air traffic control tower. I ranked it lower. Sorry, Tracy. And of just, in comparison to what the other projects were doing. And I totally get the safety aspect of it and all of the mixed use of aircraft that are over there. And but how I saw it was just the use of the airport and being able to function just weighed higher in my head. I went for the harder infrastructure versus the air traffic control tower. So, and I don't know if there's anything else that any other facts maybe that would help in the conversation, but.
So I believe in looking at this, and I'll read Catherine's question out loud to everybody in a second. One of the reasons why this did have a higher score is it checked all of the boxes from the statutory piece. There was information provided that allowed all of the reviewers, all of the different agency reviewers to score it the way they did. Catherine wrote, I'm wondering if the bipartisan infrastructure law funding for air traffic control towers is a better source of funding for this project. Would you all like to hear from Tracy, or do you have any questions for Tracy? Would you like Tracy to answer that question if they've tried to seek funding elsewhere, or?
Sure, if she's got anything else.
Sure, Tracy.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. So I think in my presentation, I emphasized the issue of safety with different types of aircraft in our operating environment. I probably could have spent more time on the bigger or as big an issue. It's the congestion in the airspace. So currently, I gave the example of an aircraft on an IFR approach having nobody at Bend to talk to. But the congestion with the other airports is an issue. And with the addition of an air traffic control tower, so now someone on approach to Bend who's talking to Seattle and is talking to Redmond can now talk to Bend. And so those three air traffic organizations are communicating behind the scenes that is not, that's on a discrete frequency and communication that just makes everything safer and easier for everyone. I indicated that our stakeholders, it's the #1 priority to them. And I failed to mention that it's also a priority with the Seattle air traffic control. They want it just as much, if not more, because
Tracy,
of that.
Tracy, is there any other funding streams or opportunities that you are either currently seeking or have already looked into?
I will be seeking funding out of the bipartisan infrastructure law monies, and I've had conversations with the FAA. When I made grant application to Connect Oregon, back in September, I think it was, the bipartisan infrastructure law had not come out. That came out at the end of December. So we will be pursuing funds. And from what I talked to with the FAA, they are letting out $1 billion a year for the next 5 years. And the priorities will be given to existing air traffic control towers that have exceeded their useful life. Their minimum equipment is outdated and needs to be replaced. So the likelihood of Bend receiving federal funding for this project is in the out years. By that time, we will have exceeded our 5-year obligation. We're obligated to have this built by 2025. If we don't get it built and commissioned by 2025, the city of Bend has to start over in the program, and I can't apply again for until 2030. So time is of the essence for me.
Thank you for answering that question. Board members, are there any other questions that you would like to ask Jason?
For the board members out there, anyone else feel that they would like to put something above the Bend Tower or take the Bend Tower? We just need to kind of get a feel for where you all think about they say the ranking of the top 3 or 4, any discrepancies. So Vince has pointed out that he had a discrepancy with the Bend air traffic control tower. I thought he'd move some of the lower ones up. can I hear from some other board members if you have other concerns similar to Vince's?
Chair Maker, I'll test my mic again. Can you hear me?
Oh, hey, you're good, Catherine. I can hear you
I
again.
did what you said. I unplugged and plugged it back in. It's a great technology fix for everything. I would just echo, I have the same concerns that Vince has about this amount of money, which would basically take all of the Aviation Connect Oregon funds for one project.
Okay. All right, so any of the other ones, did you have anything that, while I have you, Catherine, any lower ones that you thought maybe have been mismarked, any of the other projects and their ranking that made you have questions?
So I think if we can go back to the other spreadsheet, I am wondering if we took Cape Blanco out of this spreadsheet, because I understand they're no longer seeking the funding, does that change anything?
Yes, let's remove Cape Blanco from the spreadsheet in its entirety.
And then the only other one it would be very helpful to understand for Josephine County what the funding at the state level that's going to be coming through. Because we've had tiny die, so we should be able to have that information to know that funding and if they really are going to need the Connect Oregon funding or not.
Yes, thank you, Catherine. And I would like to defer to Betty on this because she has the exact information that came from the legislature on that and more information. Betty, can you please share the funding?
Yes. For the Illinois Valley project, I just checked a few minutes ago on the status of that bill. It's on the governor's desk for signature. And there is probably less than a 0% chance that she's not going to sign that bill. And the dollar amount for Illinois Valley was $750,000. So it's not sufficient to fund their full ask, but there is $750,000 in committed funds from the legislature for that project.
Martha did mention, and this is for the rest of the board members, that rulemaking has since changed, and I do not believe that they will be able to change funding for a grant that's been already asked for, even if it's at a lower amount. I did talk to ODOT about that, and they said they really can't do that. So I'm not really sure how something like this would play out.
My advice, my thoughts, not my advice, just my thoughts. I would be hesitant to take Illinois Valley forward unless right as it stands now, I would be hesitant to take it forward in a tier 1. And I know they're talked about, well, if they get the money, then maybe they can reroute ARPA money and that. But unfortunately, it will do us a disservice if we try to tap dance this in front of the FRC.
And I agree with you 100%, Martha, for that. Betty, was there any other, I know LeGrand wasn't given their money, but there wasn't any other airport money that was given out by the legislature, is that correct, except Cape Blanco?
No, that's incorrect. Cape Blanco was, but also Salem got $540,000 for modifications to the terminal building to support air service, but Salem is not an applicant under Connect Oregon.
Right, I meant all the applications, but thank you for clarifying that. So would you like staff to move the Illinois Valley project to the bottom or a lower tier on the list? Where would you like us to put it in the overall rankings?
I would take it to the bottom.
Okay.
And I'm open for other board members. Anyone against taking it to the bottom and just parking it there? Okay, Heather Parkett.
Okay, will do.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to the Bend air traffic control. I'm kind of a fan, but I'm just one person on this, and it does concern me now that I don't want to reset them back into the contract tower program. Tracy, going back to you, is this your last shot at funding? I mean, is there, I guess the concern is the inability to get funding for this, that you may be put back into the back of the line with our friends in the federal ATC program.
Well, I think the city of Bend is committed to making this work. And worst case scenario is I will have to go to the city of Bend council and request that we issue debt to fund this project. Don't want to do that because the revenues generated on the airport currently will be unable to meet debt service without relying on the general fund taxpayers. But I will leave no stone unturned in terms of looking for funding opportunities.
Copy that. So for me, I'm kind of would like to leave the Bend airport up there, but I would like to hear from some other folks. I know Vince kind of wants to take it down a little bit. Catherine, what's your thoughts?
I had a follow-up question for Tracy, and that is, okay, so maybe not bipartisan infrastructure law funding, but what about regular AIP funding or FAA investment funding?
Thank you. That's a great question. I asked the same. I have requested, I've only been with the city of Bend for 2 years. And that's when we got on the list for the federal contract tower program. And I've asked each year to put this on our CIP for federal FAA funding. It was denied each time because currently the FAA is not funding air traffic control towers, as is a very low priority.
And I can second what Tracy said. I also asked, as a function of system planning for state aviation, if that was still their position, and they had confirmed that right before all this went out to you all.
Is the Redmond Tower not sufficient to cover both airspace?
The Redmond Tower, I just spoke with the air traffic control tower manager yesterday, and they are not sufficient. They are looking at their own improvements. We don't compete. It's just a matter, they're looking at radar because they can't see anything at Bend. So it would complement the Redmond Tower. In fact, the Redmond Tower provided a recommendation for the Bend Air Traffic Control Tower, and they would continue to do so, along with the Redmond Redmond Airport Manager. They're both express support for an air traffic control tower at Bend.
How many, this is Mike Oliver, how many incidents have you had there in the last year or two?
Well, it happens almost daily where there are needs to deconflict the aircraft in the pattern because it's so diverse with their different operating characteristics. Just a couple of months ago, a transmission went viral over the internet because we have pilots in the air issuing air traffic control instructions to each other. One said, okay, I am a Citation jet. I'm on a 5-mile final. You Cessna 150, extend your downwind. You helicopter, do a 270 and re-enter. And that's just totally unsafe.
Thanks. Yeah, I think
not only to mention that it's unsafe, I mean, then there's all of the environmental issues And then the airport neighbors get concerned when they're operating outside the normal traffic pattern because they look up and see and hear, this is unusual. What's going on up there? And it's because they're trying to deconflict on their own.
I guess overall, Heather, help me out here because we just went through this at Aurora. I mean, you have defining standards for when an airport becomes, a candidate for getting a control tower. And Tracy, copy all. We are all aviators. We all understand what a tower does. Copy that. When did we start on Aurora? What was the driving priors that drove the control tower at Aurora to become a must-fund project for ODA?
I wasn't here during that time, and they were funded in the Connect Oregon program that was 1 year prior to me coming on. Well, I've been here almost 11 years now. It was prior to that time, but safety was a huge piece of that. And everything that Tracy is has already spoke to. The reason this scored so much higher was also due to the regional and Business of Oregon scoring priorities that they gave as well. And I can't speak to that because I don't have a lot of their comments handy. I just have their scoring handy. So
okay,
we were funded. ODA was funded for the Aurora Air Traffic Control Tower through Connect, and it was successful, and it came in on budget, actually a little under, and on time, if that's helpful for you all. And it was a very successful Connect Oregon project.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we probably talked the Bend Air Traffic Control Tower thing to death. It may just have to become, like I said, Vince, you want to reattack?
Oh, no. I'm just one vote, right? I mean, and just because I'm saw it a little differently, I'm not going to make everybody else change their votes at all. It's helpful for me to hear that, and Tracy, I completely understand, and it's a great project. I get it. So no, it's I'm good.
Okay. For bringing something up inside the top 5. I do want to kind of, touch with Vince here a little bit. Let's look at the top 5. Would you is anybody want to champion? Is anybody really concerned or just really want to see a Cresswell move up, a Grant County move up? I think the top 5 is pretty safe. So I'm going to start off with chunks of 5. I'm just going to open it up for discussion.
Well, I had ranked Grant County higher.
Okay.
And I can't remember, we saw so many slides today. So Grant County, this one was to rehab, both widen and rehab. And I think, weren't there parts of it that were really in really bad shape, almost unusable shape? Was that one of them that was, Heather, maybe you know this one better than I do, but I had ranked it high, and some of it too, I sort of had the soft spot for the remoteness of that airport, and they don't get a lot of money. And so that was another reason I moved them, that I had them ranked higher than where everybody else did.
Yes, and you're correct on both of those. And it did in their presentation, they did go over that. And looking at how, if you go back to the prior Connect Oregons too, and I can give you all some information, all of the runway rehabilitations did seem to rank higher in the past. I am not sure if the detriment to the ranking might have been Business Oregon scoring on these for jobs and economy.
Okay.
Because I would recommend, you take Cresswell, Grant County, Corvallis, I would at least move them up a couple. I would move them up to, you know, the cargo and Pacific. I know it's the eVTOL cargo and Pacific Northwest is a very economic, attractive kind of thing. But just my 2 cents worth is I would take those three and I would move them up to at least near the prospect. But that's just me. Catherine, you want to get in on this?
Yeah, I just was revisiting the prospect proposal, and I'm questioning why we are supporting an airport not in the NIPIS. I totally understand the firefighting issue, but if that airport is so critical, why is it not in the NIPIS? And why, and should we really be spending money, this money to support that when it's not AIP eligible? So, you know.
So airports and projects don't have to be in the NIPIS or AIP eligible to be part of Connect Oregon. And in the past, some of these airports, not just the ones owned by the state, this was their only opportunity to seek funding from any other opportunities. So that's why this one is in here. And it did score lower because of the Business Oregon economic nexus.
You said Prospect scored lower due to economic, just to clarify.
Yes, it did, because it's not a big community, just like you were saying, even about Grant County. And it's harder to, if you can't provide a nexus to a certain amount of jobs in the economy, it's not going to get a very high Business Oregon or economic scoring.
And so I would assume that the reason the Prospect was, this is the only place you're going to get $1.6 million for Prospect.
That is correct.
You're not going to get it from the FAA.
No.
Probably not going to get it from the SOAR funding that the ODA provides. So this is, if I am correct in just saying, this is ODA's attempt to get dollars that it will never get from any other project.
And to further this, in Connect Oregons of the past, there has been projects at Malin and Vail that were very similar and funded because they didn't have any other opportunities to seek funding. So they sought funding through Connect Oregon and were successful and did have successful projects.
Okay.
So I got a question. You know, I feel that, you know, listening and looking at all the detail, there's several airports that have very safety related issues on the airport. And until those are fixed, there's no economic growth to be had on an airport if you can't sustain the airport. So why wouldn't the airports that have safety issues be on the top of the list to get fixed so they can start, you know, developing economic growth? It's a question.
So that is why you all are here, to look at it as a specific aviation lens on what you are wanting to put forth as priorities for aviation. That is a board discussion that you should be having.
So what I'm hearing is that if I'm correct here, guys, or if I'm not correct, just yell. We have runway issues with Medford, Cresswell, Grant County.
Corvallis.
Corvallis, right. That's a group of 4 right there. And I'm kind of hearing that we would like to bump that up to much closer to the top. Is this true?
That was my fundamental. I was a similar mode of Mike there. And again, depends on how you classify the safety, but that's how I was looking at those runways.
Okay.
Is that a lot of those are just they're safety issues. And if the runway doesn't work, you're not going to get any economic development. That was sort of my fundamental piece. And I went runways and taxiways first and ramp second.
Okay, copy all. So do you want to rank them ahead of the Bend air traffic control? You know, Medford is an apron expansion, or do you want to bring Medford down? Do you want to go with replacing existing first? Or do you just want to move it up?
So how about this? Would you like staff to move the runway and taxiway projects to the top above Medford?
Because personally, I think, I would put it, I still like the top three. I'm just kind of enamored with the top three. But I would, I think, making the city of Corvallis number 5, Jackson County 6, 7, and 8. That's kind of where I would put it. Where would you go? Your thoughts, everybody?
Where does Prospect fit in with that, Martha?
Yeah, I would move Prospect probably. I put Prospect in that group. I mean, it's the same. The airport. We're going to have a non-functioning piece of pavement real soon if we don't do something with that.
I was going to say Prospect either has to be taken care of or it's going to be gone.
Yep. So Heather, do me a favor, and then we can move them right around if later. Take Prospect, Corvallis, Medford, Crestwell, Grant County, put them all together and stick them at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Okay. So putting Corvallis under Prospect, Creswell under Corvallis, and Grant County under Creswell. This is the sausage making.
And the poor person driving the PowerPoint presentation is always it got 17 people trying to tell them how to do it. So we'll just let you do your thing. And while she's doing that, then the discussion is, do you want to move them any higher?
Heather, I'll just note the Medford is not runways, that runways that should be on the plan, I believe, right?
The Medford East, are you talking about, no, we're leaving that one there, right? Or were we not?
About your comment over on the right runway. It should be.
Oh, right. Sorry, the comments thank you very much. That is apron.
The other Medford project, the Transportation Technical and Training Education Center, it seems to me like there would be a place where more private money would be going into that. And they're asking for $1.75 million. And it's primarily involving, from the way it was presented, a lot of it's being presented in terms of training future airline pilots. And the airlines, from what I understand right now, are more than willing to put money in to get future pilots trained. So just my take on that.
So to follow again what the board has been saying about infrastructure, that isn't an infrastructure project, but if you were to look at the other projects around it, you might want to look at that for different priorities in your list.
Well, what I mean is, this is just an example, but it seems to me with the climate issues that we are experiencing right now, that something like expanding a tanker operation would maybe come up above a training education center. I mean, that's just an example. When this state catches on fire, those tankers are very, very valuable.
Yeah, I think my only concern with the Harrison Aero tanker is that we're building, tell me if I'm wrong here, but we're building a hangar for a private entity.
Right. No, I just use that as an example. In other words, something of that nature would to me would be above a education center. They're both private as far as that goes.
Oh, good point. Good point. So would we move the Jackson County, the Medford, the Technical Education Center, would we move that down along with, like I said, down to, where is that? Say down in the Erickson Aero Tanker range? I think when we're getting down below, we probably won't get into that discussion at the FRC. But it does kind of make sense that if we're looking to build for, hangars for private, I would put the training center right below Florence Municipal Airport. As much as I hate to say that, because that's, I would love to see a new training center because they have done God's work at that airport, generating a fantastic education program, but doesn't quite fit with the infrastructure projects that we got going.
So for the rest of the board, would you like staff to move that? Now we can do that for you.
Yeah, bump it down to below Florence. We'll just leave it there for now. We'll probably come back to it, but
Yeah, that makes sense.
okay. Go back up to the top, please. Top 5. Looking at those things that we really want funded. We got a runway extension right now that's in the top 5. Would you take that runway extension and put it below the pavement preservation?
Yeah, and I can't remember who benefits to the runway extension. Who's that for?
It was another, basically to bring in citation. It was basically what we're doing at Aurora. They just wanted, they've got aircraft there operating on restriction. They want to remove the restriction.
Okay.
That is correct.
So I think if we're going to kind of go around, let's keep the pavement we have. I think the philosophical wise, you would need to take Josephine County down below Grant County.
Okay, we can move Josephine County under Grant County.
I do, in my opinion, I'd probably move that runway extension down even lower, because that basically, if I'm reading the guy right, it's basically you're extending the runway so the companies they can use their private jets to fuel up and launch out of there instead of having to tank somewhere else.
That was in the presentation, correct? Sorry, Martha.
Where do you want to take it, Mike?
I just think, there's other, I think, me personally, I think there's other things that are that are probably more important than an extension for about 3 or 4 different companies, corporate jets to tank. So, I mean,
Would you take it below Florence's little airport fueling island?
yeah, me personally, I probably would.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Mike on that. It's
Yeah, me too.
the operation of these corporate jets. I mean, it's not like they can't operate out of there. They just can't carry a full load of fuel.
Copy that.
Okay, how does that look?
Okay, top 5, guys. Top 5. Are they the ones that just sing to your heart?
So we have Jackson County, Medford, East Side, heavy duty aircraft apron expansion, Klamath Falls Regional Airport runway reconstruction, Bend Air Traffic Control Tower, Prospect State Airport runway, and Corvallis Airport runway.
I'm good with that.
Yep. Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get it all the way down.
All of those up to the top then, if we're really looking at pavement preservation. And then my question would be, for all except Prospect, there is AIP funding available for that, correct? So, and I don't recall from each of the presentations if these are matches on these rehab projects.
Yes, so they are looking for matches for their AIP funding. That's why the request is so much lower.
So maybe those should be popped up to the top then.
Comments?
I think probably the way it would allow is, I'm going to take this from the, what I can sell to the FRC. Here's my, if I, play Johnny Carson and I forecast what is going to happen. 1 through 5, they'll take it. They may sniff at the Bend Air Traffic Control. That's just a chunk of money for them to swallow. So don't be surprised if they kick that out. But I think they'll swallow the top 5 based on ours. We go to Corvallis and then we can play the matching game card at that, saying, we'll bring in additional funds. So hopefully we can get it all the way down. And then, at this point, then it just becomes a discussion amongst the FRC on the sales points on the cargo, the seafood facility versus what else we're going up against.
I mean, that all makes sense, Martha. I also would throw in, taking a look at what are going to be true economic drivers coming out of this. I'm all for pavement preservation. That makes sense. And it's a good investment to provide the match. But there's a few of these projects on here that are true economic drivers if they were to move forward. And I think we have to consider that.
Okay, such as what would you like to bring ones back up?
So I'm looking specifically at really this Coos County project should really just be a cargo project, right? The cargo facility enhancements.
Okay.
And let's see. I won't talk about mine because I've already stated my conflict.
I see where Catherine's going here. I mean, because you could talk about the Medford, Eugene, and the Pacific Northwest as cargo developments, all 3 of those. Those are clearly economic components to them. And it seems like you'd probably rank those together. And Martha, you know this way better than I do about how this gets viewed in the full committee. So it seems like you would take, I don't know, you could put those in one group and then the runway stuff in a second group, potentially.
Because economic will play. They want, that's what Connect Oregon's kind of about.
And then I guess my only other question is about the Klamath Falls proposal. I know it's a secondary runway or cross-run runway, and does the Guard provide any funding around that because they are heavy users of that airport?
John Barslow is on. Would you like to answer that, John?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. No, the Guard, well, I guess I should say we're asking them. They're saying that they don't use that runway, that our argument is that they use that runway when Taxiway Foxtrot is closed, for example. There's some other areas where they definitely need to use that runway for taxiing purposes, but it's too short for them to use. So therefore, their argument is they don't think that they need to provide any funding for that. I'm asking them for a small amount, but there's no guarantee with that ever with the Guard. So just an FYI on that.
We'll battle with them, John.
Right.
And I guess several of you have talked about your framework when you explored these. And I also was coming from a framework, not just of economic impact, but also looking at firefighting across the entire state. I think that's got to rank high, and I know your project does that.
Yes, it does. Yes, it absolutely. Yeah, the economic impact and the firefighting for sure. Thank you.
So Catherine, going back to what I heard, did we want to group the cargo together? So just to as we kind of give some thought, some framework to our thoughts here, do we, take the apron expansion and the seafood transfer facility? Do we bring eVTOL back up into here, or do we make Medford down to there? I kind of like the idea of kind of going cargo together.
Yeah.
Chunk the 3 cargo projects together and then all of the runway projects together. Then the committee can basically decide if they want to invest in, economic, if they want to work on preservation.
Okay, so on the transfer facility, would you move it up to number, so that makes it number 2?
Okay.
Because the Juliet Lima air cargo is air cargo.
Okay, bump that up. Okay.
Which was the other one you wanted moved?
Whoops, say that again.
But
Which was the other one you wanted moved?
I think Eugene.
Yeah, I said to put them in order of how they have been ranked. So it would be Jackson County, Eugene, Coos County. Everyone can.
Okay, so
I'm confused.
So Eugene comes ahead of Coos County. Yes. Okay. How is that looking?
Martha, do you think this gives us the best, opportunity to maximize what we're trying to do? This has really been helpful for me because I wasn't looking at it through the economic development lens as much as I think I needed to. And so this has been a really good conversation for me to understand how the money gets doled out when the time comes. And so I'd probably had more of my core hat on, versus this. And so I can get on board with this if you think, Martha, this is the best opportunity to be successful.
Well, my only concern is if you take a look, it depends on where you want to put your money at. And we had this discussion at the FRC in 2015. Do you want to do a few big projects or a lot of little projects?
Yeah.
If you take a look here, I doubt we get there. I mean, if they would take our top 5 or 6 without questioning us, there's no money left for anything else. There's only $30,000 or $30 million between all the modals. We're not going to get the majority of it. We're going to get our fair share of it.
Well, 46. So $46 million. And I guess if you split that 3 ways, like best case scenario, maybe, and maybe aviation will fare better. And I'm just saying because the splits are a little different with the other modes, so their projects, just so that you all know, most of their projects are seeking upwards of 10 million plus. So individual projects are a lot higher.
Copy that, but I'm just what we have right there is we have a system vectored towards few big projects versus spreading the money around. That's what we have right there. I'm going to take it back. I would take one of the cargo and then bump the other cargos down and get some of the smaller pavement savings back up in there, because I'm afraid we're just going to run out of money and we're going to get a few big projects and that's it.
Hey, Heather, I have a question about the regions and how much consideration it goes to each region and spreading the money out. Does that make a difference in how we are looking at this?
Yeah, once we get done with this, then we need to take a look back and make sure that not only do we have, big projects and little projects, we need to make sure we got a few of the folks out there on the eastern side of the state. They've got to be somewhere in here.
Right. And I do know that, that will become part of the larger discussion, just like Martha had mentioned in the FRC. Did Haley Walker say that theirs ranked like highest in their region? I wanted to say, I think she did. So knowing that, that's going to be a discussion, like you already know that that aviation project is the highest ranking out of that region. Some of the regions have met and already chosen some of their projects. I know in region 2, I believe it's a very large marine project that ranked the highest.
So I just, you know, boy, we got $3 million for the seafood transfer facility. That is a shitload of money. Pardon my French.
Did we ever get a number in terms of what percentage the eVTOL was of that?
Very little. It's a cargo facility. And
Yeah, okay, because I don't even know if I haven't been able to follow up on it in terms of the eVTOL, if that's even flying or certified yet, but I guess it's in the future, so.
I mean, it would be nice if we could get some eVTOL. I mean, if that would be an entry, but right now, I don't think they have any hard contract. They don't see UPS. They can't tell me a certain date when an eVTOL is going to land there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
So let me go back to you guys. Vince, you know, your thoughts on, you know, I'd like to see all the cargo pad development, but I'm afraid with that much heavy stacked up front, we'll never get into the, you know, the Corvallis, Creswell, Grants and prospects of the world.
Yeah. You know, Martha, I don't sit around the table, and so I don't see how the other sausage making happens. And if what they're really looking at is economic development, then I would be worried that the runway rehabs, they're not going to see it the same way that we do, that they're going to view that as an infrastructure and they're going to pass by it anyway and give it to the big projects that are economic development. And so even if we were to push them up, would they still do it? Or I don't know how this works in terms of, hey, aviation, I got an extra $300,000 or $400,000. You want to take one from your list, and we could go down and say, okay, Corvallis, you fit, you get it, right? Do they do it like that, or are they just going to draw a line and that's that?
No, they will consider it as a whole. And, you know, it's not like aviation, what's your top 5? You know, what you get this much. They will discuss all the projects and they'll kind of get down into where the cut line gets. And as you might imagine, the cut line is where the discussion gets really interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. The top projects, you know, if we rank them high, they'll probably be up there and they'll never even get into discussion.
Additional SOAR funding. I guess I could use a reality check on that. If future, like near future SOAR funding could help provide those matches for this runway rehab.
Well, SOAR funding would be for prospect, and that would probably, you know, that would be all the SOAR funding for that year.
Also, and I mean core as well.
So yes, the projects that are listed in here do qualify for core funding. And there were applications successfully given for a couple of these projects, but they're seeking the full amount through Connect Oregon. For instance, if we're only giving them for Klamath Falls, core funding would only provide $150,000. They're seeking $550,000. That said, if, for instance, the final review committee gets down to their project list, here's a benefit of aviation having such small projects, and say they do have 900,000 available and there just isn't a rail project for that amount or a marine project for that amount. They can't split projects anymore, and they can't say, can you use that? And to some of it, but they can take projects as a whole and say, oh, that could likely fund the next project on your aviation list. They will do that in the final review committee. There is that sausage making ability for sure.
Yeah, there'll be some little projects get in because they're little.
Okay.
That happened. That happened last time. So that $250,000 at Creswell, that's very attractive when you've got a few leftover dollars and you can put. And plus, that is matching dollars to. Does that bring in FAA matching dollars as well?
It does.
Yeah.
Anything with FAA matching dollars is a nice sales pitch.
It's the leveraging discussion that we always have anyways. You're leveraging the entire project amount and only asking for this.
So the only concern I have with this is, front loading big dollars. Big dollars comes big economic gain. It's kind of part of the play here. So Heather, can you give us a quick overlay, maybe make another column on the staff ranking? Because the staff ranking will come back into play. They kind of the smart people on how to apply the Connect Oregon rules. Can you give us a quick column? Oh, there it is. Thank you.
And it is in there. And it will just be the statutory ranking, which is what you see here. And you have a really good justification that we've already put and that I can define on why you've moved things the way that you have.
The only one that begs a question is you got a high ranked runway extension down here, but I think we talked about the fact that there's just this is additional capability for airplanes already operating. It's not even bringing new planes. So I think we can talk to that.
Yep.
That does make sense, and that's good justification to be able to speak to, especially at final review committee. They're going to want to know that.
Makes me sad about the Technical Training Education Center, because I would love that to be funded, but I understand where we're coming from on that.
And it is a great project, and there may also be additional grant funding through Business Oregon on a project like that if it does not get funded through this program.
I think, obviously these are tough choices, right? There's so many great projects here. They all have merit. Since aviation has been cut out of the Connect Oregon program for several rounds, I think we need to do everything we can to send them projects that will get us the most funding possible, so that we don't get left behind for other projects not within aviation.
And as Martha said, there is a lot of small project opportunity to fill in the gaps. That's always looked at beneficial at the final review committee. This is the first time I think that aviation can strongly benefit from having that many small projects.
And Heather, remind me, so we've got Marine, Rail, no ODOT. It's just the three. For some reason, I thought there were 4 modals going into this.
Nope, it's us and Marine and Rail. Bike Ped has been given money through the legislature through a different route. So it's just us 3, and there are more review committees this time. So we have obviously the regional reviews that are ongoing, and some have already happened. The modal reviews. Freight is reviewing, and we're not quite done. I do sit on that committee, and they're not quite done ranking theirs, but I'll share that it seems like the marine projects are ranking high right now. And then the Regional Solutions Office is taking a look at economic drivers for their regions as well as provide. So that will be going into the final puzzle piece too for the FRC.
Okay, well, I think if we leave it like this, we'll get the economic guys, because I'll give you something how another committee can really affect whether or not the FRC takes our ranking or not. We at the FRC last time in 2015, we had a couple of aviation projects that were linked with a maritime. No, it was with a rail project. They would say that they could bring in cargo, and then they could either offload it onto a rail, and that linked it with rail. So it went to the rail modal as well as us. And rail, they basically rank everything based on tonnage. So they ranked every one of the aviation projects dead last. So we had a couple that were ranked at the close top, and they were totally thrown out because of the dual rankings when they were merged. So it could be possible that we'll see our runway extension come back up if our economic guys rank them and the merging comes back in. But I don't think they really get a Business Oregon doesn't get a per se ranking like the modal committees do. So I don't know how that will affect overall rankings when it comes out to the FRC.
Business Oregon's already done theirs in the statutory review. The regional solutions, regional one will come into place similarly to modal, like we're doing right now. Freight committee is the one that kind of tanked the rankings based upon tonnage like you were talking about. I will tell you, being able to sit in that committee now, I reminded the entire freight committee that not all freight is based upon tonnage.
We've been taking that over and over again, and they constantly ignore us.
And actually, they're not ignoring that right now. They're actually taking the merits of the project more on, and just like you all have really done, given it a lot of thought on an economic scale, on a useful life scale, on a community level. So it is very different than I've ever seen in the past. So so I think the message about tonnage may be getting through.
Okay, good. All right, well, are we happy with the ranking we have before us? Cargo first, then we get into maintaining pavement. We have a few outliers like the Bend air traffic control that we just put in there, but we've talked that to death. And then we got some little guys at the end, which probably won't garner a lot of discussion, but hopefully we can get them at subsequent core funding opportunities later on, or SOAR.
Or SOAR.
Yeah.
And if this is something that you all would like, then I would like the board chair to introduce motion for this.
Okay. So let me make sure that I've got my, so I guess we need to take, then we're going to take a vote to formally pass this through. Then I would take a motion to approve the rankings 1 through 18 as presented by staff that we have here in front of us.
Make a motion.
We have a motion. Is that Tom?
Yes.
Tom, we have a motion by Tom. Do we have a second?
I'll
second.
A second.
By Vince. All those in favor of approving the prioritized listing for Connect Oregon Aviation Modal grants as viewed, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, you've got your ranking, Heather.
And I want to extend again a big thank you and appreciation for you all for taking the time. It's a lot of work. I know the applicants really appreciate it. This is a big, and we have to wear a couple hats. We're used to looking at core projects and not necessarily all for like economic development. So thank you for expressing that, Martha, too. It's a little bit of a twist on what we normally do. It's more subjective and less objective to infrastructure in the state. So next up will be the final review committee. Martha will be going. I did get some confirmation from ODOT that we can have 2, of course, but the second person that will be going with Martha shouldn't have any nexus to an application. So that might come up in later discussion. That was just relayed to us yesterday.
Okay, so that, Catherine, you're out.
Yes.
Mike, does that mean Mike's out as well?
That is, Mike is out as well.
Okay, so we don't have.
And Vince would be out too, because I think the Port of Portland has a marine project in the mix.
Yep.
Wow, and Tom, you're probably going to be traveling, so I think we're probably just going to have one person at the FRC.
Well, actually, if we do have a stakeholder that can participate, that's a discussion that you can have, Martha. We can always look into that too. You don't have to go by yourself. Hilda could go with you too. or someone else if you need or want somebody else to have, as long as they don't have a nexus to an application, we can definitely get you somebody else.
Hilda's on the call.
Yep.
Hilda's here.
Hi, Hilda.
Yeah.
Do we have a date for that?
I was going to ask that question.
It's in May. So they did send out a date, but I don't know if it's been truly finalized, and I will send that out to you all as soon as I get it.
And I would offer up, if there's anybody that's, you know, in one of our transportation committees that's got a particularly strong leader, an aviation, you know, if anybody wants to come, I would be, you know, if they want to come and represent their region, I'm fine with that too. We got some really great folks out there. Otherwise, yeah, it's not a big issue because I mean, it's really a collegial. It's amazing how 40 people with vast differences can get in the room. And with the exception of, you know, every so often we got a guy that wants a $9 million rail project. But, you know, other than that, they really are, they're just good folk.
I'll be there for staff. I believe Betty will be there too in the gallery just to watch how it all shakes out. And just like Martha said, stay tuned to the process. And if you would like to come, we encourage you to do so. I don't know now if it will be in person. If it is, there will be a public participation piece that will allow it to be hybrid.
Okay. Heather, before we let everybody go, you mentioned before that if we change tiers or whatever, that we would need justification. I don't
already have it.
Okay, so you've got everything you need then to go. Fantastic.
Yes.
Okay, well, super. And then if anybody out there wants to, like I said, wants to join me at the FRC, it's not, you get to meet a lot of great people. There's a lot of people involved in making transportation happen around the state of Oregon. And man, there's a lot of smart people out there. It's not just a bunch of guys who are going, yeah, let's do this over here in Eastern Country. They've been at this for a long time. I learned a lot from being there in 2015.
And I would be remiss if I didn't shout out to Kathy for all her assistance. It's just been her and I through this process. We are down a staff member. We have a lot of work on our plate, and really Kathy has been my right hand in helping me get you all this and having one point of contact instead of me sending emails and Kathy sending emails. So thank you very much, Kathy. You're a rock star. I couldn't do what I do without you, and your hard work is so appreciated.
Yay.
It's the dream work.
Kudos to that. You said, you guys, this is amazing between the core grants and then you run it up through the Connect. There's just the amount of volume of material to get it to be an objective process as you can with ODOT. You got to give the Connect Oregon guys their due. Every one of you from all the way over there to John to all down to Kathy. Just a good process overall. And hopefully we'll bring back lots of money.
You want our feedback of our thoughts?
Yes, please. So I will be packaging everything up and putting it in a bow, including all of your individual reviews. And you've all sent me your individual tabs. Like I said, I'll take Mike's rankings and just remove that one. Catherine, you left yours where it was at. That's totally fine. Tom, if you can send your package in, that would be great. If not, I'll follow up with you later and we'll figure out something else between you and I and Kathy. But we're in a good spot. I have the justification I need to send to ODOT, and stay tuned for the next step. I'll brief you all in the April meeting about ODOT's firm date for the FRC.
All right, super then. And with that, guys, unless there's any other reattacks, going once, going twice. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much for all your hard work today.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks, everybody.